Chapter 742. Tianxiang's Second Prince's Mansion, Secret Chamber. Jun Moxi's master should be most concerned about his own legacy, which is to say, his disciple, Jun Moxi. But who does Jun Moxi care about the most? Can you give me a definite answer? Chun Chong frowned as he looked at Li Yuran and asked this question leisurely. With his status as a saint, asking a junior a question was giving Li Yuran too much face. The person Jun Moxi cares about the most? May I ask why Sir would suddenly ask such a question? Li Yuran smiled lightly, concealing the trace of surprise in her eyes. The reason is very simple. I just confirmed that old monster is not in the Jun family at all. This old man can confirm it. And this time, Jun Moxi did not return with him. Chen Chong said seriously. As he said that, he glanced at Qi Tianfeng, a hint of dissatisfaction flashing in his eyes. When these words came out, everyone was shocked. Qi Tianfeng raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why does Brother Chen say that? In the past few days of probing, all of us have gone to that small courtyard and have a deep impression of the spiritual qi there. Also, all the strange things about the Jun family's mansion have been seen with our own eyes. I wonder how Brother Chen came to such a conclusion. There are no outsiders here, so feel free to speak your mind. Haha, in these few days I will follow behind every single one of you." Chun Chong harumphed and said slowly, "This is not only to test the waters, but also to ensure everyone's safety. In this small courtyard, everyone can clearly see that the gathering of spirit qi is not caused by some external force, but by the accumulation of spirit qi through cultivation. There is no doubt about this. But there is another very special point that none of you noticed. Actually, I did not notice it first, but I discovered it by chance." "What is it? What is special?" everyone asked anxiously. What's special about this is that the spiritual energy in the courtyard and the spiritual energy in the sky didn't increase or decrease during this period of time. There was no change at all. Also, within this region, there are no cyclones, nor are there any traces of supreme experts' auras. Chen Chong's expression was very ugly. No increase, no decrease, no cyclones. Hearing this, everyone fell in a deep thought. Every single one of these saints was an outstanding candidate, and they were all intelligent. In an instant, everyone understood the meaning behind Chun Chong's words. Chen Chong was right. If someone were to really cultivate, there would definitely be a unique fluctuation of spiritual qi, or perhaps a cyclone. Then, the spiritual qi in the center would disappear, and the spiritual qi in the distance would gather. This was a cycle of consumption. Since there were no such signs, it proved that no one was practicing. If no one practiced martial arts, then where were the so-called experts? Everyone had been extremely afraid of the Jun family's strange phenomenon for the past few days. They were only afraid of the unusual density of the heaven and earth's spiritual qi. However, they hadn't paid any attention to the subtle changes in the spiritual qi. Last night, this old man decided to take the risk and try to absorb the heaven and earth's spiritual qi in the sky above that courtyard. It was indeed very beneficial. However, there was no movement from below. Chun Chong's face darkened as he said word by word, "Everyone here is smart. The answer is very obvious. We have all been deceived. We have fallen for that old man Jun Tian's delaying tactic. The Jun family has been at its weakest over the past few days. We have no ability to resist at all. What a good trick of using the false to match the real with the false. Absorbing the heaven and earth's spiritual qi in the sky above the Jun family was equivalent to invading that person's territory. If they still didn't show up under such circumstances, then the answer was obvious. This Saint Chen Chong was truly courageous. He actually dared to take such a huge risk and act. If the owner of this place suddenly appeared while Chun Chong was absorbing the heaven and earth's spiritual qi, he would be completely defenseless. The word risk that Chen Chong used was definitely the most conservative way of putting it. Just this risk alone could put one's life in danger if an accident happened. For a moment, everyone looked at him with admiration. Chen Chong laughed bitterly and said, "Everyone, don't look at me like that. If you had seen this old man sweating in fear and still pretending to be calm, you would definitely not look at me like that. Most of my life has already passed, but the panic I experienced last night is the first time I have ever experienced it. Everyone burst into laughter. But the June family has never been our target. We only have one goal, and that is June Moxie's master. Since he is not here, then why are we still attacking the June family? Are we going to waste this trip? Chi Tian foam furrowed his brows. If we had thought of this before coming here, perhaps this would be the case. Unfortunately, time has changed. Our current target can no longer be limited to that mysterious person alone, because there is another person who is definitely more dangerous than June Moxie's master. Chin Chong said slowly and raised his head. That person is June Moxie himself. This time, a total of 580 top-notch experts from the three Holy Lands were completely annihilated. The Palace Lord personally went to the Saint cultivation area to make a request, and the Saint King of Broken Heavens personally sent a message to this old man. The Palace Lord even used his position as the Palace Lord to entrust this matter to me. We must kill June Moxie and Mei Shuiyan at all costs. These two people are already a huge threat to the three Holy Lands. If they are given any more time to grow, the three Holy Lands will truly fall. These two people are the real threat. The 12 of them fell into extreme silence. The Palace Lord personally made a request, and the Saint King personally sent a message. This matter was really serious. It looked like Mo Wudao was extremely shaken by the death of his own brother, Mo Xiao Yao. His fear of June Moxie and Mei Shuiyan had also reached an extreme. If not for this, why would he go against the rules of the three Holy Lands and request the Saints to take action? Saints had never participated in any of the three Holy Lands operations. In the three Holy Lands, the experts above the Saint level were considered to be supreme existences. They only focused on cultivating and did not care about anything else. Moreover, every single one of them had their own personal cultivation area, and no one, including the Palace Master, was allowed to disturb them. As long as it was not a matter of life and death for the three Holy Lands, Saint-level experts would not interfere at all. This time, to deal with June Moxie's master, it was because this person's abilities were too heaven-defying. That was why the Saints were mobilized. Moreover, they had sent 9 Saints at once. But now, there was such a huge and unexpected change in the situation. This request was originally within reason. Close to 600 top experts from the three Holy Lands and 9 venerables had fallen at the same time. This kind of strength is already equivalent to the combined strength of anyone below the Saint level in the three Holy Lands. It is not unwise for the Palace Lord to have such concerns. An unusually gentle and beautiful voice rang out lightly. It was the voice of a woman, but there were only 12 men present. Where did the voice of a woman come from? Li Yuran raised her head in shock, but she realized that the other 10 people were already used to it. Their expressions did not change at all. The one who spoke was a saint from the hermitage. His face was fair and beardless, and he looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s. When he was not speaking, his expression was unusually solemn and solemn. He had the demeanor of an otherworldly expert, but when he opened his mouth to speak, it was actually a woman's voice. And the moment he opened his mouth to speak, his facial features also seemed to become unusually strange. Of his 2 eyebrows, one slanted to his temples and stood erect like a sword, while the other turned into a crescent moon. One side of his face was still that of an iron-blooded man, but the other side had turned soft and supple. One eye flashed coldly, while the other was filled with tenderness. His left hand was still muscular, but his right hand's fingers were slender and even slightly curled up. Even his Adam's apple had disappeared. If there was still a man's Adam's apple, he would not be able to produce such a graceful heavenly sound. Li Yuran only took one look, and her heart was instantly filled with an indescribable feeling of disgust. She only felt as if she had seen the ugliest thing in the world. A yin-yang person. There is actually such a person in the world. What does Brother Jiang mean by this? Sa Qing Lu frowned slightly. This brother Jiang covered his mouth with his right hand and giggled like a flower. His right eye flirtatiously winked at Sa Ching Lu and said in a coquettish manner, your eyesight is really bad. You should call me younger sister Jiang. Younger sister Jiang? Sa Ching Lu's expression turned strange. It was as if he had suddenly swallowed a dung beetle in the middle of a feast. It was useless even if he spat it out, because half of it had already gone in. This kind of feeling was truly hard to describe. Jiang Junji. If you have something to say, just say it. At a time like this, do you still have the energy to say such useless things? Chen Chong furrowed his brows deeply. Before coming here, he had been repeatedly reminding this fellow not to speak unless it was absolutely necessary. It would be best if he treated himself as a mute. But who would have thought that this fellow would still be like this? Yin Yang Saint, Jiang Junji. According to the legends, this person was from a strange race many years ago. After the war for seizing the heavens, he had been heavily injured but did not die. By chance, he had crossed the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and was chased until he was on the verge of death. In the end, his bestial nature had erupted, and he had raped an old woman in the mountains. In the end, although that strange race person was still killed by the Xian army, the most bizarre thing was that this old woman had actually become pregnant at the age of 70. After being pregnant for 15 months, she had given birth to a son, because this baby was actually of both genders. Chapter 743. In the end, Hermitage appeared and subdued him, imprisoning him and watching over his cultivation. But many years later, this fellow had unexpectedly broken through to the saint realm. This could be said to be a huge anomaly. This time, it was because Jun Moxie's so-called master's abilities were too miraculous, and they were afraid that something might go wrong. Thus, they ordered him to come along. Most likely, it was because this person was proficient in all sorts of sinister tricks. If one was not careful, even the strongest person would fall for his tricks. Elder brother Chun, what nonsense are you spouting? Jiang Junji pouted and said coquettishly, when I'm like this, I'm not called Jiang Junji. Right now, I'm called Jiang Junja. It's the G from songstress. As he spoke, he cast a flirtatious glance at the other 11 men in the room. In the blink of an eye, all of them had received a flirtatious glance. Even the junior, Li Yuran, was no exception. In fact, Li Yuran's reaction was the most intense. His cultivation was too low, and he felt chills all over his body. His scalp felt like it was going to explode, and his hair stood on end. Goosebumps appeared all over his body. What if this fellow wants to have sex with me? That's a situation worse than death. I can't win against him, and I can't escape either. Even death would be a luxury for me. Heavens! Fortunately, Li Yuran's heart was calm and collected. He focused his attention and looked around. When he looked at the others, he saw that all of them were baring their teeth, and their faces were filled with strange expressions. Cui Changyi's hands were scratching wildly on his arms, and his face was pale. Facing such a pervert, even a saint-level expert would find it hard to resist. Black lines appeared on Chun Chang's forehead. He really could not understand why such a transvestite would be sent out this time. This was simply too embarrassing. This Jiang Junji was a man one day and a woman the next. It looked like the day that belonged to his woman had arrived just now. You big men, in the end, your thoughts are still not as meticulous as us girls. The burly Jiang Junji's face was filled with gentleness as he stretched out his slender, jade-like fingers, lightly pointing at everyone's foreheads. It was as if he was a peerless beauty throwing a tantrum to her lover. Smelly men are just so stupid. Jejich. A series of teeth-gritting sounds rang out, and more than 3 or 4 saints began to tremble. It wasn't because he was angry, but it was just too creepy. In this servant's opinion, Jun Moxie's master, and at best, is just a rather outstanding hermit. If he wanted to harm the 3 holy lands, he would have done it a few hundred years ago. Why would he wait until now? But this Jun Moxie is different. This fellow clearly hates our 3 holy lands to the bone, and saying that he can't live under the same sky as us is an understatement. How pitiful. So, killing Jun Moxie is the most important thing right now. Since he has the ability to slaughter 600 experts, that means that he has the strength to destroy any of the 3 holy lands. I think that this is the true concern of Palace Lord. Does everyone understand? Jiang Junji's eyes flashed as he spoke in a sweet and lovable tone. Since Jun Moxie's master already possesses such a shocking cultivation, but has never gone against the 3 holy lands, then, even if we really kill his disciple, it shouldn't incite that person's hostility. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if he wants to seek revenge against the 3 holy lands, if he really comes knocking on their door, wouldn't everything be much easier to deal with? Isn't this our goal? Hee, this servant's guess is correct, right? That makes sense. Everyone pondered at the same time. For a moment, they had completely forgotten about that disgusting tone of his. Right now, the majority of Tian Fa's forces have already returned. Apart from that little bastard Jun Moxie, the rest of the Jun family's forces have also returned. Why don't we go and observe the situation for a while more? If it's possible, we can directly take action. Chen Chong said slowly. Chi Tianfeng paused for a moment and nodded. That's right. Right now, all the Xian beasts of Tian Fa are here, and the Jun family is also here. Venerable Mei has too many reservations, so he cannot escape and does not dare to escape. This time, it's the best chance to kill Venerable Mei. Chun Chong nodded slowly, and his sharp gaze swept across everyone. Who's going? Miao Wuji laughed coldly and took the lead. Let our illusory blood sea take charge of this first battle. Tian Fa's Venerable Mei. I want to see what kind of extraordinary abilities this Tian Fa's successor has. That's fine as well. The 6 of us will support you from the back. However, you must know when to hold back. After all, we are seniors, and this battle is akin to the strong suppressing the weak. Tian Fa's Xian beasts, it's best not to injure too much. If Tian Fa's Saint King suddenly appears, it will be hard to explain. Chen Chong said solemnly. In the former case, people below the venerable level are fighting against Venerable Mei. Their strengths are roughly the same. Even if there is a difference in strength, there is not much of a difference. If the Saint King of Tian Fa appears, we can say that it is a fight between children. But if a saint like us personally takes action, then it is too difficult to explain. As long as we can get Venerable Mei to make the first move, we won't have to worry about this anymore. The ancestral teachings only said not to kill each other, but they didn't tell us to stretch our necks and wait for death. Jiang Junji glanced at them and said lightly, I heard that Venerable Mei has fallen in love with the Jun family's Jun Moxie, and Jun Moxie doesn't have many family members. His mother has just returned to the Jun family, and that woman should be the person that Jun Moxie cares about the most. As long as we control Dongfeng Wenxin, Venerable Mei will definitely go crazy. In that case, you guys can slaughter him as you please. No matter how you look at it, it's reasonable. That's right. That's right. Everyone's eyes lit up. But I heard that Jun Moxie's charm is extraordinary, to the point that even a beast king like Venerable Mei would fall for him. When he returns, you guys have to keep him for me. This servant wants to see this person's elegance and see his abilities. Jiang Junji lowered his head bashfully, and even his neck seemed to turn red. Everyone was speechless. Li Ran came out of the secret room, gasping for breath. He felt nauseous and nauseous. To think that there was such a monster in this world. Just now, when he was in there, he had nearly vomited over 10 times. In this moment, he actually felt like he had just escaped death. After a long, long time, young Master Li finally managed to steady himself with the support of the tree. Would using Jun Moxie's mother as a threat really be effective? Perhaps it would be effective against Mei Shuiyan, but what about Jun Moxie? It was likely that even the average person in the secular world would rarely use such a method. Why were the saints of the 3 holy lands so calm and collected? Could it be that if one's cultivation was high, they could truly be heartless and disregard the lives of the world, and only care about success and failure? How would the Jun family deal with this? Would they completely collapse because of this? If Venerable May died because of this, what would happen to June Moxie? If I were June Moxie, what would I do? Li Yuran raised his head and looked at the sky. Suddenly, he felt a little lost in his heart. That was because he suddenly realized that his life had no goal at all. What do I, Li Yuran, want to do? What can I do? Mei Shuyan led a large group of people and returned triumphantly. The June family was filled with jubilation. Grandpa June finally put down his heavy heart for the time being. The one who suffered the most was Han Yinyao. Looking at Tianxiang City that she hadn't seen for a long time, looking at the old Junjian Tian, she suddenly felt a wave of guilt. She knelt in front of Junjian Tian, tears streaming down her face. Junjian Tian sighed softly, a look of reminiscence flashing in his eyes. He smiled and pulled her up. Yinyao, good girl, you've suffered. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. The doors of the June family will always be open for you. Han Yinyao covered her mouth and let her tears flow freely. For the past 10 years, she had been worried about how the June family would treat her. Even if they treated her harshly, it was only right. But now, she finally knew the answer. The answer was unexpected. She could clearly feel the forgiveness in her heart. Now, she just wanted to cry to her heart's content. Father, third uncle, and little sister Yinyao are not young anymore. Daughter-in-law thought to herself, let's find a time to settle their marriage as soon as possible. This will also allow our June family to have many descendants as soon as possible. Mo Xie is the only heir for 3 generations. It's a bit too weak. Dongfang Wenxin said gently. Grandpa June nodded and smiled. Good, good. Han Yinyao's face turned red. She pulled Jun Wui to see the children who had been persecuted by the Hall of Hell. This matter was the real cause of her worry. Jun Wui couldn't argue with her, so he could only accompany her. That night, the Jun family held a banquet to entertain the beasts of Tian Fa. Everyone left happily. During the banquet, Grandpa June told Mei Shuyan about the movements of the Jun family these few days. Mei Shuyan couldn't help but frown deeply. As the ruler of a generation, she could keenly sense the danger. An unprecedented danger that was beyond her control. Right now, although June Moxie had never said it out loud, Mei Shuyan had already guessed something. That master of June Moxie's was a fake person. All the strangeness came from June Moxie's own hands. However, the other party had 9 saints eyeing them covetously, and they were waiting for an opportunity. Furthermore, although they had returned victorious, it had also brought about a huge change. A total of 9 venerables and 600 experts from the 3 holy lands had died at the same time. What kind of heavy price was this? What kind of deep hatred was this? Even a saint couldn't remain indifferent. There was no room for reconciliation between the 2 of them. Pass down my orders to all brothers. Prepare for battle from now on, but do not act rashly without my orders. They cannot slack off at all times. Brothers who have already transformed to fly, get ready to receive the entire June family and retreat to the Tian Fa forest. Mei Shuyan whispered something in a Long Crane's ear. Long Crane nodded, turned around, and left. Chapter 744. Mei Shuyan's eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and she was deeply worried. She could guess that the most influential person at June Moxie was undoubtedly Dongfang Wenxin, then the old man Junjian Tian, and then the third person would be herself or the third master Jun Wui. Unless the enemy was willing to risk universal condemnation and directly deal with the entire June family. But according to Mei Shuyan's experience, a saint would never do that. But if the target was Junjian Tian, the enemy could have done in these days. Since the enemy didn't move, then the target must be Dongfang Wenxin, if not her. Mei Shuyan thought of this in an instant and made preparations. So, Mei Shuyan arranged for Guanqing Han and Dugu Xiaoyi to hide in a corner. If a fight broke out, the 2 of them would not be affected. With their cultivation, they wouldn't be able to bear it even if one of them was swept away. Since June Moxie wasn't here, Mei Shuyan had to protect everyone, because this was her responsibility and she had to bear it. Guanqing Han and Dugu Xiaoyi were stunned for a moment, but they saw that Mei Shuyan's expression was especially heavy, as if something big was about to happen. Their hearts trembled, and they obediently nodded in agreement. Both of them admired Mei Shuyan from the bottom of their hearts. Since she had made such an arrangement, she must have her reasons. Of course, they wouldn't disobey. At this moment, Mei Shuyan didn't feel like eating. She kept frowning and thinking hard. She seemed to have a lot on her mind. They didn't fly very fast on the way back. Their speed was only a little more than half of the speed when they came. Mei Shuyan had been hoping that Jun Moxie would catch up with them, but he didn't. They had flown for 4.5 days, 2 days longer than when they had first set off. At midnight, all was silent. Mei Shuyan, who was sleeping with her clothes on, sensed a strong aura rising from somewhere in Tianxiang City. Like a flash of lightning, it appeared in the sky above her courtyard. So fast. Furthermore, there's actually more than one person. This is going to be troublesome. Although Mei Shuyan was shocked, her expression remained calm as she slowly sat up. With a flick of her wrist, the king's sword that Jun Moxie had gifted her appeared in her hand. Mei Shuyan gently stroked the scabbard, her limpid eyes flashing with a threatening, killing intent. Saint. Expert, even if it was a saint-level expert. Would I, Mei Shuyan, be afraid? Mei Shuyan's eyes flashed with tenderness and determination. She took out a small jade bottle from her bosom. This jade bottle was extremely small, only the size of a pinky finger. Inside it, there were 3 soybean-sized objects that glowed with a golden light. Saint King pills. The objects inside were linked to Tian Fa's most decisive move. It was a divine item that had been preserved for tens of thousands of years and had never been used by anyone in these tens of thousands of years. It wasn't that they couldn't use it, but that they didn't dare to use it. The Saint King pills were the 3 miraculous pills that the first Saint King of Tian Fa had condensed with all his remaining blood essence and Yuan Qi when he died. Its effects far surpassed that of the Xiandan. Once consumed, one would be able to explode with energy that was 10 times stronger than one's own strength in a short period of time. With such power, one would be able to kill all enemies in an instant. But the price to pay for such a result was also extremely huge. It wasn't something that anyone could afford. That price was one's life and one's cultivation. The moment one consumed these 3 Saint King pills, no matter what one's original cultivation was, there would only be one result. All the meridians in one's body would be broken. Their Yuan Qi would be crippled. They would revert back to their original form, becoming an ordinary Xian beast that was not even comparable to a 3rd-level Xian beast. Even their souls would be destroyed. Even if a current Saint King consumed it, this would be the same outcome. This was a pill that would destroy oneself if one wanted to destroy the enemy. This pill had already been passed down to Mei Shuyan for tens of generations. Even the small bottle that contained the Saint King pill had been rubbed until a layer had been removed. From this, it could be seen how many generations of Tian Fa Beast Kings had thought of consuming the Saint King pill before, but none of them had been able to make up their minds to do so. But at this critical moment, Mei Shuyan took it out without hesitation. Jun Moxie was not around, so the safety of the Jun family was in her hands. She would not allow anything to happen to the Jun family during this period of time. There was no other reason. I am also a member of the Jun family. This is Jun Moxie's responsibility. This is his responsibility. Naturally, it is also my responsibility. A trace of determination appeared in Mei Shuyan's beautiful eyes. Her cherry lips lightly kissed the king's sword that Jun Moxie had given her. Her face was filled with love, reluctance, and gentleness. Then, she moved her fingers and carved a line of words on the wall. From today onwards, Mo Xie's orders are Mei Shuyan's orders. The Tian Fa beasts must not disobey. She had just finished writing this line of words when she felt a mountainous pressure on her head. A total of 3 extremely majestic forces came crashing down. Then, the roofs of the few houses in the courtyard suddenly flew into the air. A huge hand came down from the sky, grabbing towards the sleeping Dongfang Wenxin. Mei Shuyan laughed coldly. The scabbard flew out of her hand, and the blade of her sword suddenly shone brightly. In the darkness of the night, it transformed into a shining dragon. Her clothes fluttered in the wind. She leaped up and stabbed her sword fiercely towards the hand. At this time, June Moxie and the Eagle King were flying at top speed. They were only less than half a day's journey away from Tianxiang. But the further they flew, the more anxious June Moxie felt. His heart was getting more and more perturbed. It was as if something bad was about to happen, and he could not stop it in time. This kind of uneasy feeling lingered in June Moxie's heart. This kind of anxious and irritated feeling caused this ruthless and merciless evil monarch to suddenly feel fear. It was a fear that rose from the bottom of his heart, worrying about personal gains and losses. This kind of feeling came out of nowhere, but it was so real. That was why he was urging the Eagle King even more urgently. As for the Eagle King, he seemed to have vaguely sensed something. He did not care about himself anymore, and activated all his yuan qi. Like a black lightning, he pierced through the dark night sky, and without a word, he flew towards the Tianxiang city that was thousands of miles away. Flying at top speed, regardless of the cost, June Moxie's heart suddenly palpitated. An indescribable feeling of heartache suddenly caused his whole body to convulse. His heart instantly tightened. Once this feeling of heartache arose, June Moxie immediately grabbed hold of the Eagle King's huge claws and endlessly sent a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi into the Eagle King's body. The Eagle King's spirit was lifted, and his speed doubled. He left behind a series of shadows in the dark night sky. Under the extreme friction between the feathers and the air, there was a faint burnt smell. He actually flew at an astonishing speed that surpassed his own peak speed. As the sword light flashed, it collided with the huge hand. With a muffled grunt, the huge hand disappeared, and a string of blood droplets fell from the sky. An exceptionally enraged voice rang out. Tian Fa, Venerable Mei? Miao Wuji was both shocked and enraged. His palm could be said to be invulnerable, and even his bones and flesh had reached an indestructible level. So he did not feel any psychological burden when he grabbed. He felt that this time, he would definitely be able to catch Chu Wuji easily. Even if someone tried to stop him, the result would still be the same. But he never imagined that a strange sword light would suddenly appear. Just as he felt his entire body turn cold, he realized that he had already suffered a huge loss. His entire palm had actually been pierced through, even though it was Chu Wuqing's broken saber, which was practically the sharpest in the world. He still dared to face it with his bare hands. He was even able to catch Chu Wuqing's saber with 100% of his strength without suffering any damage. But this sword that suddenly appeared was actually able to cause such a huge injury to his palm. Just what kind of sword was this? Mei Shuiyan Lang said, "Illusory blood sea, Miao Wuji." She had already recognized the identity of the newcomer from that huge hand. After all, there was also detailed information about these saint experts that could threaten her in the Tian Fa forest. Miao Wuji snorted coldly and said, "Venerable Mei actually has a peerless sword in his hands. This Miao is really envious. But since Venerable Mei is in the room, why doesn't he come out to speak? Could it be that the great Venerable Tian Fa is actually afraid?" Mei Shuiyan, who was below, did not make a sound. However, an extremely bright and resplendent sword light soared into the sky and shot out from the hole in the roof. Wherever the sword light passed, Mei Shuiyan's white robes fluttered in the wind. Her peerless beauty instantly appeared in the air. Her beautiful black hair fluttered in the wind, and her white robes danced in the air. Her figure was slim and graceful, and her beauty was unmatched. But in the darkness of the night, there was another kind of coldness. While it moved one's heart, it also broke one's heart. The three people on the other side had the same feeling. The current Mei Shuiyan was like a beautiful flower that was withering in the wind, blooming in one moment, withering in the next. Beautiful to the extreme, but only for an instant. Although Mei Shuiyan's expression was calm, they could clearly feel the anger, madness, and rage hidden beneath that calm expression. There was also a kind of desolate helplessness and a cruelty that did not hesitate to die. The three people's hearts sank. She actually saw through it. The moment Mei Shuyan came out, she saw the three people on the other side. There were no stars or moon in the sky, but she could still see them clearly. The moment she saw them clearly, she knew that it was probably impossible for her to safely pass this trial today. Today, she had truly reached the end of the road. And here, behind her were all her relatives. She could not escape. The people who had come were the three saints from the illusory blood sea. Chapter 745. Miao Wuji's face was calm, and his eyes flashed like lightning. Venerable Mei, could it be that you really don't know the reason behind this? The reason why we made a move against Dongfang Wenxin was to lure you out. Now that you've come out, she will naturally be fine. There's no need for you to mock and ridicule us here. Do you think that the three of us will be angered by your words? Even if you can anger us, what can you do? Lure me out? I'm afraid that's not all, right? Mei Shuyan snorted coldly. You try to lure me into attacking you first, right? That's your true intention, right? As long as I make the first move, you will have plenty of reasons to disregard the ancient alliance and join hands to kill me here, right? Such deceitful actions are truly despicable. However, I still want to ask one more thing. When did my Tian Fa become such a thorn in the side of the three holy lands? To actually be so unforgiving? The former's many schemes, and now the three saints joining hands to set up this killing trap. Since the three of you have lowered yourselves to set up this killing trap, you should not be stingy and give us a reason. Miao Wuji's eyes were slightly closed, and his face was expressionless. Fine, since Venerable Mei has asked, this Venerable will reveal this point. Indeed, Tian Fa has never been wrong since ancient times. But the one who is wrong is Tian Fa. His words were extremely contradictory, but Mei Shuyan understood what he meant. She laughed bitterly and said, "That's right, Tian Fa is not wrong. But the one who is wrong is Tian Fa. Miao Wuji, can these words of yours represent the three holy lands? Tian Fa is not wrong, but the one who is wrong is Tian Fa." These words caused Mei Shuyan's heart to turn as cold as ice. The one who is wrong is... Tian Fa is a Xian beast, not a human. This meaning was clearly expressed in this sentence. Miao Wuji fell silent for a moment before replying, "Venerable Mei, I respect you as an overlord of a generation, and since you've asked me this question, I didn't want you to die without knowing why, so I made an exception. Now that you're about to die, why must you be so overbearing?" Towards Mei Shuyan's sharp questions, Miao Wuji couldn't answer them, and didn't dare to. He knew that if he gave a definite answer, it would bring about a shocking change. Even a saint like Miao Wuji would not be able to bear the consequences before the situation became clear. Furthermore, he did not have the qualifications to say that he could represent the three holy lands. The fiendish blade saint, Wu Qianhun, who had been standing by the side, said indifferently, "Of course, if Venerable Mei doesn't dare to fight, then please return to the horde of Tian Fa's Xian beasts. We will only bring Dongfang when exiled away and wait for Jun Moxie to come and ask for her." His deep eyes pierced through the night sky and landed on Mei Shuyan. "Don't worry. As for Dongfang when exiled, we will not stoop so low as to harm an ordinary woman whose husband has died. She will definitely be able to live well. Even if Jun Moxie dies in the future, she will still be able to live until she retires." This lord's words were even sharper and sinister. He wasn't afraid that Mei Shuyan wouldn't accept the challenge. This was clearly an open scheme. Fight! Why wouldn't I dare? Mei Shuyan's face was resolute. Even if Dongfang when Xian was destined to be fine, she couldn't allow the enemy to bring away Jun Moxie's mother and her mother-in-law in front of her. If that was the case, how would Mei Shuyan have the face to stay in the Jun family? This move of the three holy lands had found Mei Shuyan's Achilles heel. She had to fight. She had to fight. But she would definitely die in this battle. "I'll go with you." 2 sentences. One was from Mei Shuyan, and the other was from Dongfang when Xian. Unknowingly, Dongfang when Xion's frail body appeared on the wall of the courtyard. He looked at the three saints resolutely and turned to Mei Xuyan. His eyes were filled with satisfaction and love. Shui Yin, there's nothing for you to do here. You can leave first. If Mo Xie comes back, tell him that I've never felt this peaceful in my heart before. Really? Mei Xuyan's heart skipped a beat. She instantly sensed Dongfang when Xion's determination to die. She shouted, Qian's son, take Madam away and protect her well. Dongfang when Xion would rather die than let Mei Xuyan be hurt because of him. But wasn't Mei Xuyan the same? She would rather die than let Jun Moxie's mother be hurt in any way, because she was also his mother. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen, who was dressed in green, came out. In a flash, she carried Dongfang when Xion and looked deeply at Mei Xuyan. Then, she turned around and ran down the wall, disappearing into the night. In the sky, a black mass of flying Xian beasts rose up silently. Their eyes were like lightning, flashing fiercely. But in the distance, another 6 figures rose up into the sky, bringing with them an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Langling stared at the movement over here. Mei Xuyan bit her lips in pain. Why, this is in the Tian Fa forest. She really wanted to wave her hand and have thousands of Xian beasts attack at the same time, to fight the enemy together. But that would be a huge loss. And even if she could force back the 9 saints, she wouldn't be able to kill any of them. In fact, she wouldn't even be able to heavily injure one of them. If that happened, the Jun family would be finished. Venerable Mei, you are truly a heroine. But I must take revenge for this stab. Please attack. Miao Wu Ji's eyes shone with a merciless light as he slowly rose into the air. With just one sentence, he had already attributed this battle to Mei Xuyan's stabbing of his sword just now. This battle had become a personal grudge, clearly indicating that this battle had nothing to do with the 3 Holy Lands, and even more so with Tian Fa. But he did not mention that this stab was because he wanted to kidnap Jun Moxie's mother. Mei Xuyan did not say anything. She was already too disdainful to speak. If you want to pin a crime on someone, you can always find a pretext. Twisting the truth was the specialty of the 3 Holy Lands. Their despicable actions were only natural in their eyes. There was no meaning in reprimanding them now. From the beginning to the end, they only wanted to kill him. Mei Xuyan did not reply. With a flick of her wrist, a sword appeared in her hand. Her slender figure slowly rose into the air. She had no choice but to fight. Boss, let's all attack together and tear these bastards apart. Him challenging you is equivalent to challenging the entire Tian Fa ferocious lands. Long Crane transformed into his crane form and flew down. Below, Bear Mountain, Earthcracker, and the rest roared and shot up like lightning. He attacked the 2 saints who were hovering in midair. Long Crane was right. Miao Wu Ji might not have the qualifications to represent the 3 Holy Lands, but Mei Xuyan could represent the Tian Fa ferocious lands. It was only natural for the Xian beasts to interfere in this battle. Retreat, Mei Xuyan shouted anxiously. The demonic blade, Saint Wu Qianhun sneered, and his body streaked through the air, leaving behind 7 or 8 afterimages. His purple robe flashed in front of Long Crane, and Long Crane's eyes turned bloodshot as he charged down. With a loud boom, Long Crane's huge body flipped a few times in the air, and he retreated 40 to 50 zhang away. The feathers on his body fluttered and fell to the ground. The bewitching sword saint, Shun Qing Yun, also descended with all his might, facing Bear Mountain, Earthcracker, Ho Chi, and the rest. His sword flashed like a demon, and Bear Mountain and the rest's huge palms landed on his body. However, he did not move at all. Only his face turned slightly red. But the 3 Beast Kings' bodies were covered in blood, like a fountain of blood. Everyone stop! Mei Xuyan roared. Shun Qing Yin retracted his sword and retreated. I do not wish to kill them, so you can rest assured. Killing them is a piece of cake for me, but I do not wish to have an unfair advantage. I, Shun Qing Yin, do not wish to do such a thing. Everyone retreat. If there is anyone who hesitates, then I, Mei Shui Yin, will kill myself right here and now. Mei Shui Yin's black hair fluttered in the air, fluttering chaotically as she shouted. Bear Mountain and the rest fell to the ground, and almost fell. But when they heard Mei Shui Yin's order, they could not help but tremble and shouted angrily, "Big sister, retreat! Everyone retreat!" Mei Shui Yin's eyes were calm, but there was deep emotion in them. Bear Mountain and the rest suddenly knelt on the ground and cried out, "Big sister, we retreat!" Mei Shui Yin shouted for the third time, and there was deep emotion in her eyes. She said slowly, "Brothers, please protect my family. Do not let them come to any harm." After she finished speaking, her body turned in midair like a fairy walking on ripples. She soared into the sky and drew a cold and beautiful ray of light in the night sky before disappearing into the distance. Long Crane spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew back and shouted angrily, "Everyone retreat. Do not let Big Sister's good intentions go to waste. In the future, we will definitely avenge this." None of the Xian beasts said anything. They only knelt quietly on the ground and stared blankly at the white figure slowly disappearing into the distance. The three saints disappeared at the same time, and the six figures in the distance also disappeared without a trace at some point. Bear Mountain and the rest had tears in their eyes, and a wave of grief and indignation filled the air. This was a kind of helplessness. They could only hate themselves for having such a low cultivation base. At such a crucial time, they could not help at all. Instead, they had become Big Sister's death talisman. 3 holy lands. From now on, our Tian Fa will not rest until all of you are dead. Long Crane's bloodshot eyes looked at the empty sky, and blood continued to flow from the corner of his mouth, forming a puddle on the ground. But he did not even blink. Not rest until all of us are dead. Although Bear Mountain and the rest did not say these words out loud, they had already been deeply engraved in their hearts. Mei Xuan led the way, her face expressionless, only cold and solemn. Behind her, Miao Wuji looked at her figure indifferently, a thick killing intent in his eyes. The blood debt of 9 venerables and 600 experts was finally going to be repaid tonight. Finally, they could force the Supreme Beast King of Tian Fa into a situation of no return. The responsibility that the venerables could not fulfill would be fulfilled by the saints. This could also be considered as fulfilling the wishes of those experts who had already sacrificed themselves. Even if they made an exception and started a massacre, so what? A trace of relief appeared on the faces of the 6 saints behind him. Although they felt a little ashamed in their hearts of the 2 goals of Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyan, one of them had already been accomplished tonight. How fast were these people? In just a short moment, they had already left the city. Mei Shuiyan let out a long roar and turned around. "Come, all of you come at me together." Miao Wuji smiled lightly. "There's no need for everyone to join hands. This Miao alone is enough." With a loud laugh, his body suddenly spun, turning into a shadow. In the blink of an eye, he had already shot into the sky. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew from all directions, attacking Mei Shuiyan. Mei Shuiyan's body also moved, and sharp sword light rained down from the sky. In an instant, a rain of swords rained down from the sky, and the falling petals flew into the sky. The entire battlefield was suddenly filled with an extremely strange atmosphere. It seemed to be filled with the gentleness of spring, the violence of summer, the fragrance of autumn, and the piercingly cold of winter. 4 Seasons Absolute Killing Sword Technique. This is the secret technique that he taught me. A peerless sword technique that belongs to the 2 of us. Mei Shuiyan skillfully used this peerless sword technique, blocking the storm-like attacks of the enemy. Her heart was filled with endless peace and satisfaction. Even in this kind of battlefield filled with killing intent, her heart was still filled with tenderness and sweetness. Mei Shuiyan's figure floated in the air, her expression tranquil and tranquil. Her body was like the wind, her white robes flashing like lightning. Sometimes she was in the south, sometimes she was in the north, sometimes she was in the north. She looked forward, looked behind, drifted from south to north, then from west to east. With this sword technique, even with the strength of a 4th-level venerable, she was able to fight evenly with a 1st-level saint. The 8 saints who were watching from the side all had shocked expressions on their faces. The difference in cultivation levels was something that could not be made up for. This was a rule that had existed since ancient times. But today, this rule had been broken by Mei Shuiyan. All of this was because of that wondrous sword technique in her hands. Miao Wuji's face had been greatly damaged by the long battle, and he flew into a rage. With a loud roar, his figure suddenly vanished, and his body shot up in a straight line, reaching a height of 500 zhang. Then his head and legs flew back down. His right palm suddenly shot out, and a powerful gust of wind formed in his palm, turning into a gigantic palm the size of a millstone as it smashed down. The sound of wind and thunder actually sounded together with this palm. This was because he knew that it would be difficult for him to defeat Mei Shuiyan with just his martial arts. So he wanted to use his saint-level Xianqi to suppress the weak. Mei Shuiyan had originally wanted to dodge to the side and regroup her attack. But to her shock, she discovered that the moment her opponent's earth-shattering palm descended, the space around her had been sealed, and she could not move at all. Even the air in the space was not compressed at all. This was the heaven and earth cage? Was this the application of a saint-level heaven and earth cage? Mei Shuiyan's long hair danced in the wind and thunder. At this moment, her face was calm. A small jade bottle suddenly floated out from her bosom and exploded soundlessly in front of her face. 3 golden pills appeared in front of her, shining with a demonic golden light. With a boundless energy, they floated in the air in front of her. Mei Shuiyan's expression did not change, but a trace of crazed love and despair flashed in her eyes. But she did not hesitate at all. Opening her mouth, she swallowed the 3 pills, then she closed her eyes. Chapter 746. Continue erupting. First chapter. Soon, second chapter. The gigantic palm in the sky came closer and closer, and a cruel light flashed in Miao Wuji's eyes. This palm was the secret technique that made him famous. Mountain-splitting palm. The title of mountain-splitting saint came from this palm strike. He was completely confident that if this palm landed, Mei Shuiyan would definitely perish, dying a violent death. And the mission of the 3 holy lands would also be half completed. But right at this moment, Mei Shuiyan's body suddenly surged with an abnormally tyrannical aura, rippling out in waves. With a loud hong sound, she forcefully broke through the spatial seal Miao Wuji had set up. It was not a deliberate attempt to break free, but a natural collapse. The berserk aura was like the raging tides of the sea, surging in all directions. All the trees in the forest where the 2 of them were fighting broke apart at the same time, flying far away. It was as if the entire forest had been moved away in an orderly fashion. The entire ground had instantly turned into a patch of barren yellow soil. Not even the slightest bit of grass could be seen. The dust that filled the sky was like an earthy yellow dragon that rose into the sky and covered the heavens. As for Mei Shuiyan, her form underwent a huge change. Her long hair suddenly stood straight up, each strand pointing towards the sky. With a pung sound, the only ornament she had on her hair, a jade hairpin, suddenly exploded into dust. As for Mei Shuiyan's cultivation, it also soared rapidly. From a middle stage of the 4th-level Venerable Realm, it climbed all the way to the peak of the Venerable Realm with a schwa, and it continued to climb. In the blink of an eye, it had already reached the 1st level of the Saint Realm, and it did not stop there. It continued to climb. 1st level, Saint Realm primary stage, 1st level middle stage, and then to the peak. Then to the 2nd level, Saint Realm. Only then did it finally stop. In the blink of an eye, she had actually charged from the 4th level Venerable to the 2nd level Saint Realm. The power of 3 Saint King elixirs was actually so immense. At this moment, the thunderclouds in the sky seemed to have suddenly come to their senses. They gathered together from all directions, and the countless lightning bolts that could destroy the heaven and earth paused for a moment in the air. Without any preparation or preparation, they struck down impatiently. It slashed down wildly. Silver snake dance. Mei Shuiyan's long hair fluttered in the wind as she let out a shrill cry. Her cry was mournful and stirring, like the cry of a despairing phoenix. She was bidding farewell to the clear sky for the last time. An unprecedentedly sharp and cold sword light suddenly rose from Mei Shuiyan's hand and violently rushed out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a beautiful rainbow that connected the sky and the earth. It seemed to be connected with the tribulation cloud that was condensed by the power of the heaven and the earth. The rainbow was over 10 feet thick and immeasurably long. It fiercely slashed towards the 8 people watching from the sidelines. He had killed 8 saints with a single strike of his sword. At this time, Miao Wuji had already descended from 40 to 50 zhang in the air. His millstone-sized palm smashed down viciously, striking right at the top of Mei Shuiyan's head. Mei Shuiyan, who had already reached the second level of the Saint realm, did not dodge at all. Instead, she smiled faintly and slowly raised her head. Her eyes had actually turned a deathly green color. She allowed the violent wind to smash against her head, but she did not move at all. Reaching out with her left hand, she had already grabbed onto that illusory hand. With a forceful tug, she roared, "Come down for me." At this time, Chun Chong, who had been watching from the sidelines, suddenly thought of an ancient legend regarding Tian Fa. Connecting it to the situation before him, he finally came to his senses and roared, "Miao Wuji, abandon her hand. Retreat quickly. That's a Saint King elixir. She's going all out." Chun Chong's voice was like a clap of thunder. His voice was anxious and urgent, but it blended together with the thunderclaps in the sky. Countless streaks of lightning flashed in the sky, causing the faces of the 10 people participating in the battle to turn pale. The clouds in the sky suddenly turned bright red, like the clouds on fire, like the color of fresh blood. It was as if countless demonic gods were riding on demonic clouds, converging from all directions. The thunderclaps became even more urgent, forming a continuous sound. At this time, the Xian beasts in the Jun family's courtyard were still kneeling quietly on the ground, looking at the direction that Mei Shuiyan had disappeared in. Suddenly, Long Crane's entire body shook. He had discovered a strange phenomenon. The clouds in the sky were converging from all directions. Then, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Long Crane's entire body suddenly trembled. At the same time, in the distant sky, a dazzling sword light that was extremely familiar, yet unfamiliar, suddenly rose up. That position was already very far from where they were, but that familiar sword light was like a rainbow that connected heaven and earth. In the darkness of the night, it was dazzling and resplendent. Even if it was 1,000 li away, it could still be clearly seen. It was like the ultimate song of life. Long Crane's expression changed greatly. That was clearly the sword light that Big Sister had released. How could he be unfamiliar with Big Sister's sword light? That was such a powerful sword light, but it definitely shouldn't have been released by Big Sister. Where did such terrifying strength come from? Big Sister, the Saint King pill. Long Crane's body trembled violently, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, collapsing to the ground. He had received an all-out attack from the demonic blade saint, Wu Qianhun, and was severely injured. His internal organs were almost torn apart. The only reason he could still stand now was because of his concern for Mei Shuiyan. Tian Fa cannot be without Big Sister, ah? However, Long Crane understood everything as soon as he saw that familiar yet unfamiliar sword light flash in the night sky. So, he became disheartened and couldn't hold on any longer. So he fainted. At this moment, in the distant sky, a black bolt of lightning tore through the night sky and rapidly flew over. Wherever it passed, it left behind a series of crackling sonic booms, accompanied by a faint burning smell. One could see just how fast it was. But whether it was the Eagle King or June Moxie, both of them felt that it was too slow, because both of them felt that an extremely ominous and horrifying aura was suffusing over, and it filled the hearts of both of them. From far away, they could already see the outline of Tianxiang's city. At this moment, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky. Then, they emitted a dazzling luster. In the distant horizon, large patches of dark clouds instantly turned into red clouds. With a speed as fast as lightning, they madly rushed toward a certain place. The clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. An unprecedentedly powerful pressure suddenly formed around Tianxiang City. The light breeze in the sky suddenly became wild wind, whirlwind, hurricane. June Moxie suddenly remembered the power of heaven and earth when he helped Mei Shuyan break through in the snowy mountains, the power of wind and thunder. His expression changed, and his eyes sharpened like an eagle's. He muttered, "Who is breaking through here? It can't be Shui Yan, right?" Just as he finished his sentence, a familiar yet despairing aura suddenly filled the air. June Moxie's expression changed greatly. His face turned pale and bloodless. "Shui Yan? How can it be him? How is this possible?" Suddenly, an extremely bright and sharp sword light suddenly rose from afar, and the sword chi shot up into the sky. Then it turned into a huge crescent moon slash, slashing down from the sky. With an unparalleled power that could destroy wind and thunder, it slashed down wildly. "That's Big Sister's sword. But why does it have such great power? Could it be?" Eagle King exclaimed, and suddenly increased his speed, flying towards that direction without a care for his life. The Eagle King ignored the crazy lightning that filled the sky, and there were only 3 words left in his heart. "Saint King, Elixir." "Big Sister, are you crazy?" But someone was even more anxious than him. Eagle King only felt the weight on his back lighten, and June Moxie, who was on his back, had disappeared. If Eagle King could recognize Mei Shuyan's sword, how could June Moxie, who had given her this sword, not recognize it? Mei Shuyan's sword. Why? June Moxie used all his strength and even activated the Hongjun Pagoda and the Yin-Yang escape, pushing his speed to the limit and even exceeding it. With his so sound, he disappeared in front of Eagle King. With a speed that made even Eagle King, who was known for his speed, dumbfounded, he disappeared into the distance. On the battlefield outside the city, as far as the eye could see, it was a complete mess. Following that shout of Mei Shuyan, "Get down here!" the originally domineering Miao Wuji, who wanted to use his strength to bully the weak, had a look of fear on his face as he was forcefully pulled down by that powerful force. With a loud roar, Mei Shuyan slammed a palm into his chest, and then a torrential rain of palm strikes landed on the same spot. Miao Wuji only had time to let out a miserable cry before his body was sent flying for who knew how far. Only after he was sent flying did a series of densely packed sounds of bones shattering ring out. Although he had heard Chun Chang's warning, in the blink of an eye, Mei Shuyan's cultivation had already surpassed his by an entire level. Furthermore, she had taken a palm strike from him in exchange for this opportunity. So how could she let him escape safely? Amidst the flashes of lightning, Mei Shuyan's charming face was cold and emotionless. The sword in her right hand transformed into an unprecedentedly large screen of light, slashing towards the other 8 saints. The 8 saints roared angrily at the same time, accompanied by a soft groan that was neither male nor female. With a loud boom, the 9 saints clashed, and all 9 of them let out muffled groans. Among the saints, a few of them already had traces of blood flowing from the corners of their mouths. Mei Shuyan's body shook violently, like a willow tree that was suddenly bent by a strong gust of wind. Then it swayed back and forth again. Blood spurted out of her nose, and blood flowed out of her mouth, converging into a line. However, she did not stop. With a wave of her long sword, she directly rushed into the enemy's group. She swung her sword and actually rushed into the enemy's group. In the sky, A lightning bolt as thick as a finger struck down like a bolt of lightning, crossing a distance of tens of thousands of zhang. Its target was precisely the top of Mei Shuiyan's head. She had forcefully consumed the Saint King pill and jumped 2 realms. After successfully raising her cultivation, she naturally had to bear the pressure of the heavens and earth that accompanied her breakthrough. But because her cultivation had risen too quickly, she had broken through twice in a row. The tribulation clouds above had only reacted now, and the punishment for breaking through twice had descended. Chapter 747. For the first time in many years, Mei Shuyan, who had always considered the big picture, had the thought of completely destroying the 3 holy lands. In the end, what does the safety of the continent and the lives of the world have to do with me? I'm just a Xin beast. We're just Xin beasts. Even if the world was destroyed and the people were plunged into misery and suffering, who would dare to enter Tian Fa, including the strange races? All these years, how much have I sacrificed for this illusory world? What kind of returns did I get in return? We, Tian Fa, used our bodies as Xin beasts to hold up the sky for the human race. Why are we constantly being harmed and killed? Constantly facing life and death dangers? And the ones who want to kill us are the humans we've been saving all this time. The people we've been saving are the people we've been saving, using all sorts of methods to harm us, using all sorts of methods to kill us, torturing us in a frenzy, ungrateful and unjust to deal with us. Why do we have to suffer such treatment? Why? 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 It's said that everyone has a conscience. The world has its own justice. But where is the conscience of these people? Where is the justice of the world when we're suffering injustice? Mei Shuyan had already gone mad. There is only killing intent left in her heart. These former comrades actually used the mother of the person they loved to threaten her into a corner, using the lives of their own brothers to threaten her, using the cultivation of a venerable to face 9 saints at the same time, sharing weal and woe for 10,000 years, fighting side by side for thousands of years. People like them, ha ha ha, laughable, laughable. Mei Shuyan let out a long laugh. There was self-mockery, sorrow, anger, and unwillingness. You are not worthy. Mei Shuyan roared angrily. Her eyes flashed like lightning, even brighter than the lightning in the sky. She looked at the 8 cowering people in front of her, and as she flew, she roared again, "You, not worthy. Everyone retreat. This woman's life is over. There's no need to continue fighting with her." Chun Chong tried to block Mei Shuyan's sword in a fluster, but his body was shaken by the impact. Mei Shuyan's power seemed to be increasing rapidly. Chun Chong glanced at the pillar of lightning in the sky, his heart breaking. If they suffered a pincer attack from the heavenly tribulation in battle, then all of them were clearly aware of the consequences. Retreat? How could it be so easy? Since you have the intention to openly plot against me, then you have to bear the consequences. Mei Shuyan's eyes were filled with despair as she sneered. Her body flashed like lightning and disappeared in a flash. The first lightning pillar actually hit the air with a boom under her rapid movement technique. The dust on the ground rolled, and a bottomless hole appeared. Thunder clouds flickered in the sky, and another 3 bolts of lightning struck down one after another. At this moment, Mei Shuyan's body disappeared like a ghost. When she reappeared, she was already in front of Wu Qianhan. Sword Chi flew out of her sword as she stabbed forward. Wu Qianhan used the black demonic saber in his hand and leaped back with all his might. Even though he was a venerable saint, his face was filled with fear. Facing Mei Shuyan, he already had a guilty conscience and had nothing to say. Moreover, she had the power of heaven and earth, and even a saint would find it difficult to face her. So he could only escape. He used all his strength to escape. But how could Mei Shuyan let him escape? Before she had broken through to the 2nd level venerable, Mei Shuyan's speed was already the fastest in the world. What's more, she was now a 2nd level saint. Her speed had increased by more than 2-fold. Her body flickered, and she appeared behind Wu Qianhun like a bolt of lightning. She thrust her sword out fiercely. The sharp sword instantly destroyed Wu Qianhun's Xianqi defense, broke through his steel-like body, and pierced deeply into his heart from the back. The shining tip of the sword, stained with blood, came out of Wu Qianhun's chest. Under the lightning, it shone with the color of death. Mei Shuiyin snorted heavily, and the strength hidden in the sword exploded instantly. Sword qi rampaged and exploded inside Wu Qianhun's body. Wu Qianhun screamed miserably and roared at the sky, but he spat out a mouthful of broken internal organs. At this moment, 3 bolts of lightning fell from the sky one after another. Mei Shuiyin dodged with extreme speed, barely dodging 2 bolts. However, there was still 1 bolt of lightning that hit her shoulder. Immediately, the smell of burnt flesh filled the air. Her delicate shoulder was completely pierced through. However, her expression did not change. She moved again and disappeared in a flash. She did not even look back to see what happened to Wu Qianhun under the power of the heavenly tribulation. The other 2 bolts of lightning followed the demonic saber that Wu Qianhun had raised up. This was a good lightning rod, and it struck down fiercely. With a flash of blazing light, Wu Qianhun, who was still trying to escape after his internal organs were smashed, turned into a burning charcoal. He suddenly stopped and stood there in a daze. Suddenly, his body was torn into pieces and scattered on the ground. His internal organs had turned into a mass of pitch-black matter, emitting the fragrance of cooked meat. His soul had been destroyed. A saint expert of his generation had died in such a miserable manner. He did not even leave a word before he turned into a pile of rotten flesh. No matter how earth-shattering he had been when he was alive, from now on, all that was left was a stink on the ground. The remaining 7 saints screamed and scattered. The current Mei Shuiyin was obviously in a state of madness. Even if they gave up on their original intentions and stopped chasing after her, she would still die under the power of the double lightning tribulations. Even if she didn't die under the lightning tribulations, the ferocious medicinal energy was enough to kill her. The 7 of them were all saints, and their eyesight was extremely sharp. This kind of speed of improvement was clearly beyond the scope of normal. This was clearly a secret technique to increase one's strength by crippling oneself. The price of such a technique's backlash could only be one's life. Only by sacrificing oneself could one obtain such a terrifying increase in strength. This was something that the 7 saints knew better than anyone else. But who would have thought that the legends of Tian Fa were true? There was actually such a terrifying technique hidden within. Just now, Mei Shuiyin's strength increased by more than 10 times in an instant. It was obvious that Mei Shuiyin was trying to drag him down with her before she died. Everyone was born and raised by their parents, so who would be willing to be buried with someone who was about to die? So, the 7 saints were fleeing as fast as they could at this moment. At this time, all manners were useless. So what if they were saints? They would still be afraid, and they would still be afraid of death. At this moment, the 7 bolts of lightning in the sky had already increased to the size of a toddler's fist. They came crashing down viciously, but as Mei Shuiyin fled, they circled above her head and did not land. And right now, Mei Shuiyin had already appeared in front of the bewitching sword saint, Shun Qingyun, like a wisp of green smoke. Without any hesitation, she slashed out with her sword, like an explosion of lightning. This was a sword that could kill any strong cultivator in this world. Unstoppable. The lightning in the sky also struck down. When Mei Shuiyin was fighting with her life on the line, her cultivation was already extremely high. Not to mention that every single sword strike was accompanied by the lightning tribulations. How could Shun Qingyun defend against such a terrifying power? Shun Qingyun smiled bitterly. He knew that he was out of luck, so he did not dodge. The demonic sword in his hand stabbed straight towards Mei Shuiyin's chest. Since he could not live, then he might as well take her down with him. Mei Shuiyin did not dodge either. She was already doomed, so it made no difference if she died earlier or later. The two swords formed two parallel lines, and each shot towards the other's heart. Both of their faces were filled with despair and madness, because the other 6 saints had already fled to the point where they could not be seen. Even if Mei Shuiyin wanted to chase after them, it was impossible. Shen Qingyun was destined to be the last saint to die by her hand. Since that was the case, he might as well be killed. Although it would be a mutual destruction, it would be a quick death. It was better than the pain of the backlash and the pain of the lightning tribulations. A sad but beautiful smile appeared on Mei Shuiyin's face. She murmured, "Emo, xie." Her only regret was that she could not see him again before the end of her life. "Farewell, the person I love the most. I only hope that you can take good care of yourself. Don't let me worry. Don't let me miss you. Don't let me miss you too. Forget about me." At this moment of life and death, Mei Shuiyin suddenly thought of the first time Jun Moxie met her in Tian Fa. At that time, she was still a little beast. Then, she thought of how she and Jun Moxie traveled thousands of miles together, and how the two of them fought against the pursuers and hid under the snow. So nostalgic. A trace of shyness and happiness appeared on Mei Shuiyin's face. Enemies, at this moment, a long howl filled with endless sorrow and heartache rang out in the sky. Shuiyin, Mei Shuiyin's eyes suddenly lit up with joy. At this critical moment, she actually exploded with a strong will to live, and her body twisted violently. She avoided the heart. "Even if I'm going to die, I still want to take one more look at him, because after this look, it's life and death. It's yin and yang. Then I'm willing to leave with love." Shen Qingyun's demon sword pierced through Mei Shuiyin's chest. The blade was instantly stained with blood, and it protruded out of Mei Shuiyin's back. At the same time, Mei Shuiyin's sword stabbed into Shen Qingyun's chest. Both of their Xian Qi instantly turned into the most violent sword Qi and exploded in each other's bodies. Endless thunder and dazzling lightning suddenly exploded above the two people's heads. Then, the two of them flew in opposite directions at the same time. They flew out powerlessly. The swords were pulled out from each other's chests, and a stream of blood flowed out. Mei Shuiyin fell to the ground with a loud thud. However, as soon as she landed on the ground, she raised her head impatiently. Disregarding her own injuries, she looked at the direction of the howl with tenderness and expectation. "Emo xie, I'm so happy. I can finally see you again." Mei Shuiyin's eyes lit up. She even used the last of her strength to comb through her messy hair. "How I wish to be the most beautiful Shui, Yin and Emo Xie's heart forever. I must look very ugly right now." Chapter 748. Jun Mo Xie's figure flashed, and he roared as he appeared hundreds of feet away. His eyes swept across the area, and he saw 9 bolts of lightning striking towards the dying Mei Shuiyin. "Shuiyin!" Jun Mo Xie roared and used the yin-yang escape with all his might. His entire body miraculously flew across hundreds of feet and fiercely pounced on Mei Shuiyin's body. When the lightning came into contact with Jun Mo Xie's body, it mysteriously melted. The thunderstorm in the sky became even more violent. It was continuously preparing for the next wave of attack. Jun Moxie hugged the beauty in his arms tightly, his eyes fixed on Mei Shuiyin's face, as if he couldn't bear to look away for even a second. Mei Shuiyin coughed, and blood flowed out her mouth. Her hair had already been burnt by the lightning, and her face was bleeding from all 7 orifices. She didn't look as valiant as before, but her eyes were still as bright as water and as gentle as the moon in the sky. She stretched out a hand and gently caressed Jun Mo Xie's face. "Mo Xie, it's so good to be able to see you again before I die. I really want to be your wife, a real wife, but I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore." Mei Shuiyin smiled weakly. Her smile was warm and gentle. She stretched out a hand and gently caressed Jun Mo Xie's face. "You will definitely have the chance. No, you will definitely be able to do it. I promise. Jun Moxie said in a low voice, his eyes filled with tenderness. He hugged Mei Shuyan's delicate body tightly, as if he was making a vow. Right at this moment, Jun Moxie's eyes suddenly flashed with indescribable shock and horror. Mei Shuyan knew about her situation a step earlier than him. She smiled bitterly and said, "It's useless. I won't have this chance." When Jun Moxie hugged Mei Shuyan just now, he had already crazily transferred a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi from himself and the Hongjun Pagoda into her body. According to Jun Moxie's knowledge, Mei Shuyan had used some kind of mysterious technique to greatly increase her strength and defeat the experts of the three holy lands. The price she had to pay was naturally not small. In addition, because her strength had broken through the limit, she had attracted the lightning tribulation. If it was a normal person, she would be dead for sure. But with Jun Moxie by her side, as long as he helped her safely pass through the lightning tribulation and provided her with a large amount of heaven-earth spiritual qi to recover the damage caused by the increase in strength, all the problems would be easily solved. But Jun Moxie didn't expect that the situation this time would be so serious. Although the lightning tribulation in the outside world was not easy to deal with, the key to Mei Shuyan's death still came from within her body. Mei Shuyan had used her venerable cultivation to kill 3 saints in one go, achieving such a glorious result. The price she had to pay was not small. What she had to pay was all her cultivation and life force. A woman in a desperate state was undoubtedly crazy. Just 1 Saint King elixir could increase one's strength by 10 times. In order to win, Mei Shuyan had actually swallowed all 3 Saint King elixirs in one go. Only then could she temporarily obtain such terrifying strength. Swallowing 1 Saint King elixir was already certain death. Now that she had swallowed 3, how could she be so lucky? Jun Moxie had transferred a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi into Mei Shuyan, thinking that he could calm her internal and external troubles. But he was shocked to find that within Mei Shuyan's body, there was a kind of violent yuan qi that he had never seen before. It rushed left and right without any direction, rampaging in all directions, forming a terrifying destructive force. And it was this violent yuan qi that was slowly devouring Mei Shuyan's vitality, not letting go of even a single drop. This violent yuan qi was not only extremely strong, it did not harmonize with the heaven and earth spiritual qi that he had transferred out, and it actually had a strong repulsive force against the heaven and earth spiritual qi. If he were to forcefully suppress it, it would only cause the violent yuan qi to retaliate and further accelerate Mei Shuyan's death. She had actually fallen into such an awkward situation where there was no way forward, and there was no way back. An indescribable helplessness flashed across Jun Moxie's eyes for a moment. Then it became firm again. Hugging Mei Shuyan, he asked softly, "Who did it?" In his heart, an unprecedented violent killing intent suddenly rose. It did not even need to be brewed, and it directly reached a full state. It was as if he had suddenly awakened an ancient, bloodthirsty demon god. But when he looked at Mei Shuyan, he forcefully suppressed this murderous intent. At this time and place, he absolutely could not let Mei Shuyan's heart waver in the slightest, or else it would only hasten the beauty's death. The overflowing killing intent had just risen, but it was instantly suppressed. This extremely strong spiritual collision caused Jun Moxie's body to tremble slightly, and a trace of blood slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth. Mei Shuyan could feel the limitless pain and limitless tenderness in Jun Moxie's eyes, and she actually smiled in satisfaction. She no longer had the attitude of a peerless expert, and she was unusually weak in his arms. She looked at him affectionately and softly said, "Who did it is no longer important. To be able to die in your arms, I am already satisfied. Moxie, I hope that you can promise me one thing." Jun Moxie could still clearly feel the destructive energy in Mei Shuyan's body. He could feel Mei Shuyan's meridians breaking and breaking, and the vitality in her body disappearing bit by bit. He did not dare to be careless, and asked in a low voice, "What is it? Tell me. No matter what it is, I will promise you. I will definitely complete it for you." He did not ask why Mei Shuiyin was so heavily injured, because there was no need to ask. From the shocking changes within her body, he'd already noticed that Mei Shuiyin had surely utilized some sort of ultimate move that was an extreme taboo, and it forcefully increased her strength, causing a backlash and heavenly tribulation. And all of this was ultimately for the sake of the Jun family. And it was for his own sake. Otherwise, with Mei Shuiyin's current speed, as long as she wanted to leave, she could fly as high as a bird. Even a Saint King would not be able to stop her. And the other reason for all of this was the 9 great saints. He clearly understood that when the violent energy in Mei Shuiyin's body disappeared, Mei Shuiyin's vitality would be completely gone. And during this process, his spiritual energy would not be of any use at all. Even if he forcefully injected it, it would only speed up the speed of her collapse. He could only wait for this force to dissipate and take advantage of it. Only then would he have the chance to turn the situation around. But at that time, Mei Shuiyin would already be at the end of her life. As to what effect it would have, whether it would be effective or not, he did not have any confidence. If it really did not have any effect, then there was only one way out: to watch as Mei Shuiyin died. Even though the art of unlocking heaven's fortune had the ability to steal the fortune of heaven and earth, there was still a prerequisite. The target was still alive. How could this be? Jun Moxie's heart trembled violently. Looking at the beauty in front of him enduring that indescribable pain, he could not help at all. The wounds on her body, he could only watch and could not treat them. How painful would it be for Mei Shuiyin, who had personally experienced it, to be able to see the process of it falling apart and shattering with the naked eye? However, this stubborn woman did not utter a single word. She only looked at Jun Mo Xie affectionately. There was only love in her eyes. She was that serious, that focused, because she knew this was her last chance. If she did not look, she would never see that face she loved so deeply. "I know you are very angry, and I understand your desire to avenge me. But I still hope that you can promise me. You must promise me." Mei Shuiyin's body seemed to have regained some strength, and her jade-like hands gently caressed Jun Moxie's face and said softly, "Before you have enough strength, don't go. Don't do anything impulsive, okay?" Mei Shuiyin pleaded. Her eyes were filled with intense worry. She knew how deep Jun Moxie's feelings for her were, and if she died, it would be a huge blow to Jun Moxie. So she was worried that if Jun Moxie disregarded everything to avenge her, what should she do? Until now, Mei Shuiyin still did not care about her life force that was about to completely dissipate. Her heart was still plotting for the person she loved the most, to die for him, die for his family, and die without regrets. Although Jun Moxie had risen rapidly like a comet, his foundation was still too weak. Although the speed of his cultivation was shocking, it was still insufficient. As for the 3 holy lands, they had 10,000 years of foundation. This was a huge gap that was hard to overcome. Mei Shuiyin could clearly see that if Jun Moxie forced himself to avenge her, in the beginning, with Jun Moxie's unpredictable methods, he would definitely be able to gain the upper hand. But once he provoked a Saint King level expert, that would be the beginning of misfortune. Jun Moxie would not be satisfied with just killing a few murderers. This was something that Mei Shuiyin understood very well. Today, when he saw her, the heartache in his eyes and the killing intent that he was forcefully suppressing in front of her, she could sensitively feel that this time, the situation between the 3 holy lands and Jun Moxie would not rest until one of them was dead. First, the Jun family would be annihilated, and second, the 3 holy lands would be completely annihilated. There was no third possibility. There was no way to turn the situation around. But judging from the current situation, the Jun family was still too weak. So Mei Shuiyin had to stop Jun Moxie, stop his impulsive actions. So she endured the unbearable pain, begging for the sake of her beloved, for the sake of her beloved home. Jun Moxie was stupefied, and after a long time he said in a low voice, "You can rest assured about this. If my strength is not sufficient, I will definitely not rush to my death. When it comes to things like revenge, I have patience, a lot of patience. Although he said this, his teeth were tightly biting down on his lower lip, causing a deep mark to appear. Fresh blood was flowing out. The violent thunder and lightning in the sky were still wreaking havoc, brewing and striking, one after another, striking Jun Moxie, who was hugging Mei Shuiyin tightly, but instantly disappeared without a trace. You promised, I believe you. Mei Shuiyin smiled relievedly, feeling the vitality in her body getting weaker and weaker. She could not help but reveal a sad smile. Xie, I really have to go. I beg you for one last thing. 2 drops of tears slowly formed in her eyes, slowly rolling down from the corner of her eyes, finally falling to the ground. Forget me. Chapter 749. As long as I'm still breathing, you will not die. Even if I leave first, you will not die. Forget you? I'll save this sentence for my next life then. No, not even in your next life. Not even in your next life. With a thunderclap, Eagle King flew over from afar and landed beside the 2 of them. His body suddenly trembled as he saw Mei Shuiyin's pitiful state. He could not help but kneel on the ground and said with a trembling voice, Big sister, you really, how could you be so stupid? Eagle King, you go back first. Jun Moxie did not even turn his head as he said calmly, Tell the brothers that your big sister is fine. I will take her to be treated. Eagle King's body trembled as he looked at him in surprise and said with a trembling voice, Really? Big sister used. But Jun Moxie nodded heavily. This time, he had made up his mind. Even if the Hongjun Pagoda was destroyed, he must save Mei Shuiyin. No, can not have she. Eagle King looked at the 2 of them reluctantly and finally spread his wings and flew away. He knew that regardless of life or death, this was a space that belonged to brother-in-law and big sister. It was not suitable for him to stay here. He did not want to disturb these 2 people who were deeply in love with each other, so he chose to fly away. Even though his heart was bleeding and he really wanted to stay and take care of big sister. Xie. Mei Shuiyin smiled gently. My husband. Thank you. I also want to hold your hand for the rest of my life. Jun Moxie's body trembled. This was the first time Mei Shuiyin called him husband. In this world, she was the first woman to call him that. Shuiyin, my beloved wife, we will definitely hold each other's hand until we die. Jun Moxie's heart suddenly ached, and 2 streams of tears flowed down his cheeks. He pressed his face tightly against Mei Shuiyin's pretty face and suddenly felt suffocated, as if he couldn't breathe no matter how hard he tried. It was an extremely strong feeling of suffocation. Later, leave me here and go on your own. Mei Shuiyin begged. Her body was trembling. She felt the last of her strength leaving her. But she still took a deep breath of Jun Moxie's manly scent. She said sadly, I don't want you to see me. The other side, please. No matter what you look like later, you're still my wife. Jun Moxie said domineeringly, leaving no room for negotiation. A trace of satisfaction flashed through Mei Shuiyin's eyes. She said weakly, I am satisfied. I am really satisfied. Xie, let me go. I beg you. I don't want you to see me like that. Don't make me hate you. I beg you. Jun Xie hugged her firmly and growled in a low voice, No, no, no. If you want me to let you go, in this life, in the next life, and in the next life, you better give up on this thought. Mei Shuiyin's face flushed red. She sighed softly and didn't say anything. She used the last of her strength to rub her head against Jun Moxie's chest. Suddenly, tears fell down her cheeks. Her body suddenly trembled violently, and she said in a trembling voice, Xie, I hope you remember Mei Shuiyin and don't remember me. Don't let them see me. I beg you. I beg you. The last bit of violent energy was finally extracted from her body, and it was about to take away her last breath of life. And at this moment, a light flashed in Mei Shuiyin's mind, and she finally understood a sentence. She laughed bitterly and muttered, Heaven's punishment is not found. The Beast Kings return to their original state. Heaven's punishment is 10,000 years, and the success or failure of a single person. So that's how it is. Then, Mei Shuyan didn't make a sound anymore. She looked deeply into Jun Moxie's eyes and suddenly became a little ashamed. Then, it instantly froze. Her delicate body suddenly shrunk rapidly, and in Jun Moxie's arms, she suddenly turned into a snow-white little beast. She was on the verge of death and was unconscious. Circles of invisible energy constantly dissipated from her body. Every time a circle dissipated, her cultivation level dropped by a level. The terrifying backlash of the Saint King pill had finally reached its final and critical moment. The tribulation clouds in the sky had already disappeared, but the dark clouds were getting thicker and thicker. The sky was getting darker and darker, and a violent gale suddenly swept up. It was thick with moisture. Was it going to rain? Jun Moxie heaved a sigh of relief, and with a trace of relief and deep longing, he looked at the trembling Mei Shuyan in his arms and said lovingly, "So, it's you? I should have thought of it earlier." At this moment, Jun Moxie figured out many things. Why did Mei Shuyan target him the moment they met? Why did she make things difficult for him from the Tian Fa forest? Why did she use all sorts of methods to tease him along the way? Jun Moxie had never understood how he had offended her. Now he finally understood. So, Mei Shuyan was the little beast he had met in the Tian Fa forest, the snow god ferret that he had molested. No wonder. No wonder Mei Shuyan had said, "I hope you remember Mei Shuyan and don't remember me." So that's why. Jun Moxie finally understood why Mei Shuyan's eyes were filled with shame at the last moment of her life. Because she was afraid that he would look down on her original body. Because she was ultimately a mystical beast. Deep down, she was not human. "You silly girl." Jun Moxie lowered his head and kissed her lightly on the lips. He said gently, "When we started, I knew that you were not human. Why do you care so much about yourself? Don't worry. Before you recover, I won't let anyone see you. You are you, and you will forever be the most beloved beauty in my heart." Jun Moxie waited quietly, waiting for the moment when the power of the backlash completely disappeared from Mei Shuyan's body. Only when the backlash was over and Mei Shuyan's cultivation level had fallen to the lowest level would the spiritual energy of heaven and earth come into play. Before that, it was impossible to forcefully save her. If he acted rashly, it would really cause Mei Shuyan to be consigned to eternal damnation and turned into ashes. His brows were tightly furrowed, and a murderous look flashed across his face. He said in a low voice, "Nether first young master, it's not that I'm not giving you face, but now that things have come to this, if I don't destroy the 3 holy lands in this world, how can I face my beloved wife? How can I still be called a man?" These words were spoken in a very low and deep voice. Other than himself, no one else could hear it. Only the heavens and the earth could hear it. No one heard this sentence. There was no curse, but Jun Moxie knew that this sentence was the most vicious oath he had ever made in his 2 lives. Even if it's the 9 Nether first young master, so what? Even if it's your disciples and grand disciples, so what? Even if it's the safety of the continent, so what? Even if it's the people of the world, so what? Jun Moxie slowly raised his head and suddenly let out a ferocious roar. Even if it's the sins of the world, I'll bear it alone, so what? This was the roar of his soul, but it also officially announced the ultimate return of the god of death. 3 holy lands, I, Jun Moxie, and all of you. No, die. No, stop. Finally, the last ring of invisible energy also dissipated. The moment the last ring of energy disappeared, the moment it was released from Mei Shuyan's body, Jun Moxie's heaven and earth spiritual energy flowed in her body like a stream. The timing was exactly the same, not the slightest bit off. Mei Shuyan's flame of vitality, which had already dissipated, trembled and gradually stabilized. Jun Mo Xie did not dare to exert any force, but only slowly transferred spiritual energy into her body. As he transferred spiritual energy, he healed her wounds. The current Mei Shui Yin was probably weaker than the weakest cub. Any excessive impact would cause irreversible and disastrous consequences. Mei Shui Yin's shoulder had been pierced by lightning, and her chest had been pierced by a long sword. Although these injuries were extremely serious and could even be fatal, with the help of Jun Moxie's heaven and earth spiritual energy, it was not a big problem. The most serious thing was that the meridians in Mei Shuiyan's body had been completely destroyed by that terrifying heaven and earth spiritual energy, and not a single part of them was intact. In fact, it was so chaotic that there was no clue. The current Mei Shuiyan, other than being forcefully protected by Jun Moxie, was just a lump of flesh that could not feel anything. In fact, he had even lost his consciousness. In addition, Jun Moxie did not know what kind of martial arts Mei Shuiyan practiced. This was a big problem. Jun Moxie frowned in distress. Right at this moment, a bright flash of lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a thunderous roar that shook the 9 heavens. Raindrops the size of beans began to fall. This was the most ordinary of raindrops, and was not a big deal. To Jun Moxie, it was a small matter. But to the current Mei Shuiyan, even a single raindrop the size of a bean would be too much for her to handle. She cannot stay here. Jun Moxie's black and white eyes looked at the boundless rain and said slowly, "In the name of the owner of the Hongjun Pagoda, I want to bring someone in. If I don't allow it, I will destroy it." In his heart, he had already made up his mind. From now on, he would let Mei Shuiyan practice in the Hongjun Pagoda. If you still can't enter, then what use do I have for you? I might as well break up with you. Do you think that I care about you? If you don't fulfill my wish, then I don't want you anymore. Compared to the woman I love the most, you are nothing. Jun Mo Xie's heart was filled with manic impatience and determination. He gritted his teeth and even thought about how he would deal with this fellow if he was rejected. But with a thought, he disappeared from reality and reappeared in the Hongjun Pagoda, which was filled with spiritual qi. Mei Shuiyan, who was in his arms, was still there. Jun Moxie was a little surprised and almost couldn't come back to his senses. It was one thing to think and another thing to be decisive. But to actually do it was another thing. This was not the first time he had put things into the Hongjun Pagoda, but he had always put things that were not human inside. For example, flowers, herbs, rocks, swords, gold, and silver. But this time, he had brought a living person inside without any obstruction. This kind of ease made Jun Moxie feel uncomfortable, but he didn't know that the Hongjun Pagoda did not reject life. In fact, it had never rejected life. In fact, flowers, herbs, and herbs were all living things, and it had never rejected them before. Ever since the pagoda pearl was found, it had become a complete treasure. Now, not to mention bringing Mei Shuiyan in, even if he wanted to bring 1,000,000 soldiers in, it would still be possible. It was just that his current cultivation was not at the stage where he could bring a lot of people. But this was something that Jun Dashao didn't know. At least, he didn't know at the moment. He only thought that his threat was effective and even felt a little smug. This fellow is also a bully who fears the strong and bullies the weak. Looks like I was too gentle to you in the past. After entering the Hongjun Pagoda, Jun Moxie started to treat Mei Shuiyan's injuries. He didn't know Mei Shuiyan's cultivation path, and he also didn't know the difference between a Xian beast meridians and a human's, so he was naturally at a loss. After thinking for a long time, he finally gritted his teeth and decided on one thing. Anyway, Shui Yan's meridians were already completely destroyed, and even her original path was gone. Her situation was already terrible to the point where it couldn't get any worse. Then I might as well help her with extreme destruction and reconstruction, defeat and succeed, directly using the purest spiritual energy of heaven and earth to reconstruct her meridians and open up a new path. Then, using the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to reconstruct her meridians, she would be able to resume her cultivation. I don't believe that the art of unlocking heaven's fortune can compare to the martial arts of the Tian Fa forest. This is simply the biggest joke in the world. What Jun Moxie didn't know was that this sudden decision of his was the one that truly made Mei Shuyan. It was precisely because of this near-death experience that the Beast King's return to the true world had finally completed the true Beast King's return. The power of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune came from the ancient times, and it was the only cultivation technique in the world that could achieve supreme power. This time, it allowed Mei Shuyan to return to the true form. This was the true beginning of Mei Shuyan's strength. Furthermore, the density of the powerful spiritual energy in the Hongjun Pagoda was more than 10,000 times that of the Tian Fa forest. How could cultivating here be compared to cultivating in the Tian Fa forest? Furthermore, the spiritual energy cultivated here didn't need to be purified. It was directly Xiantian Qi. Although Mei Shuyan's original cultivation technique was a top-notch cultivation technique, it still had a limit. Once her lifespan was up, even if a Luo Jinxian came, he wouldn't be able to do anything. But now, with the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, everything was different. She would be able to stay by his side for all eternity. She would be reborn from the brink of death, rebuild from the ashes, and succeed from the ashes. That was it. Of course, the benefits were huge, but the risks were also incomparably huge. If Mei Shuyan were to make a breakthrough in this cultivation technique as a Xian beast, she wouldn't be able to withstand the heavenly tribulation. This was the same logic as the cultivation of the demon race on Earth, which was 100 times harder than that of a normal human. But she would always have Jun Moxie by her side. And Jun Moxie's Hongjun Pagoda didn't fear any lightning tribulations. So, after Mei Shuyan recultivated, her path would be smooth. Of course, this was a topic for another time. This time, Jun Moxie stayed in the Hongjun Pagoda for 3 days and 3 nights. Only then was it considered a success. Shuiyan's popularity is really high. My QQ chat window is about to be broken by the pop-up notifications today. I've made everyone worried, right? You guys can't possibly want to see Jun Mo Xie facing the death of all his loved ones after living for hundreds of years without aging, right? So this time, I've arranged this in such a grand manner. Next isn't everything. Oh, I was too careless and almost revealed a spoiler. I thought that everyone would be able to see the foreshadowing of the Beast King's return. Sigh. So many people left comments saying that they wanted to find me and kill me. Oh my god, this day is really scary. It hasn't been easy. The day before yesterday, the popsicle manager said that yesterday was his birthday. Then he added that his birthday was actually on the 3rd day of the lunar month. I found it strange that he actually had 2 birthdays, and they were even next to each other. So Big Brother specially went to check his information and found out that it was on the 3rd day of the lunar month. Yes, which is today. So, I wish our manager a happy birthday. At the same time, I also despised him. This guy even remembered his own birthday wrongly. It can be seen how sloppy he is. Chapter 750. Even if it was breaking through the meridians that were already formed and could be traced, it was still an extremely difficult task. This was because every successful breakthrough would be accompanied by a breakthrough in one's cultivation. But now, he was going to reconstruct it from nothing. This was truly creating something from nothing. Easier said than done. Even with Jun Moxie's current spiritual energy foundation and the support of the complete Hongjun Pagoda, his spiritual energy had been depleted dozens of times in the entire 3 days. Reconstructing the meridians did not allow for any mistakes. The slightest mistake would mean an irreversible failure. Jun Mo Xie had practically combed through all of his meridians once again. Then, from head to toe, he had gone through every single secret. He hadn't missed a single thing. He had even opened the Hongjun Pagoda's human meridians diagram. He had divided them into different categories according to the differences between men and women. He had proceeded inch by inch. No, it should be millimeter by millimeter. In this period of time, Mei Shuyan had not woken up even once. Although she was in a state of unconsciousness, it could be seen that the situation was progressing in a good direction. Her body was no longer as weak as before, and was becoming stronger and stronger. The wounds on her body had long disappeared without a trace, and her snow-white fur had also transformed into a bright color that was filled with the radiance of life. Even though the meridians in her body were difficult to reconstruct, and her Xian cultivation was difficult to recover, and she was no longer in human form, but her life was definitely saved. This was already an extremely good start. Jun Moxie looked at her longingly, and gently carried her up, holding her in his arms. He murmured, "Shui Yin, this is my greatest secret. When you wake up, I will slowly tell you about it, and share this greatest secret with you. I will wait for you. I will continue to wait, no matter how long it takes, till the end of time, never changing in this lifetime." He gently placed the little beast that was Mei Shuiyin's original form on the heaven-earth spirit vein that he had obtained from the peak of the snowy mountain. On top of it, there was a small green tree that was currently emitting bright spots of light that slowly drifted into the air and then into the world of the Hongjun Pagoda. The entire space of the Hongjun Pagoda was filled with vitality. This little tree was the magical little tree that had kept Dongfang Wenxin alive for 10 years. Jun Moxie had moved it into the Hongjun Pagoda when he was in the Dongfang family. It should be said that it forcefully latched onto Jun Moxie and entered the Hongjun Pagoda. A few days ago, after the Silver Blizzard City spirit vein had entered the Hongjun Pagoda, this small tree had automatically moved to the spirit vein. It had connected to the spirit vein's main body and had taken root and germinated. In just a few days, it had grown rapidly. It had grown to the thickness of a calf and was as tall as 2 people. The small and exquisite crown of the tree had also grown to the size of a huge umbrella. The benefits of this small tree were also very considerable. A thick aura of life emanated from the tree without interruption. This was the most original aura of life between heaven and earth. Mei Shuiyin's small body was placed in the middle of the crown of the tree by Jun Moxie. Countless specks of light floated out, and then slowly entered Mei Shuiyin's body, merging into her meridians. This small tree was like the most gentle big hand, continuously comforting Mei Shuiyin's scarred body and mind. "Shui Yin, you can rest here and recuperate. Your injuries this time are too serious, and it will be difficult for you to recover in an instant. I need to go home and make arrangements. Don't worry, I will come back to see you from time to time. You won't be lonely. Let me tell you another secret. This place is actually the deepest part of my soul, and it is also where my deepest secret lies. From this moment onwards, we can be considered to have become one. When you wake up and recover, I will tell you everything." Jun Moxie sat beside Mei Shuyin, looking at Mei Shuyin's unconscious petite body, and murmured. Jun Mo Xie slowly stood up and suddenly laughed bitterly. "Shui Yin, you've always been the one helping me. You've always been supporting me from behind. I'm very happy, but I'm also very ashamed. Do you know, ever since I had you, I finally have confidence in my heart, and I finally have happiness. I will never allow anything to happen to you. Shui Yin, from today onwards, it will be my turn to support you, protect you, and accompany you until the end of time. Because I am your man. This is my responsibility, the responsibility of a man." Jun Moxie stood up slowly, looked at her one last time, hardened his heart, and left the space of the Hongjun Pagoda. Inside the Hongjun Pagoda, an unusually dense amount of spiritual qi filled the air like a white fog. A green tree stood quietly emitting vitality. Mei Shuiyin's petite body was lying quietly on top of the spiritual vein of heaven and earth. She seemed to have fallen asleep and slept peacefully on her body. There was a piece of clothing that Jun Moxie had just taken off from her, and it still carried Jun Moxie's warmth and scent. Although it had no real meaning, it was filled with the accumulated feelings of that man from 2 lives. Jun family. It was completely silent, and as far as the eye could see, there were people moving about. Even humans and beasts were all gathered here. Although there were many people, no one made a single sound. The atmosphere was heavy as if it was a dead zone. An unprecedented atmosphere of grief and indignation was slowly brewing in the air. The events of that night were like an extremely heavy boulder, firmly pressing down on everyone's hearts. It was so heavy that they couldn't breathe. Although the return of the Eagle King had brought back a huge piece of news, allowing everyone to heave a sigh of relief, everyone was still waiting for June Moxie to bring confirmation. The life and death of Mei Xuyan was undoubtedly the matter that everyone was most concerned about. Other than that, there were no other major matters. Everyone was staring at the door. In these few days, no one had slept at all, not even rested. The Beast Kings were the most anxious. They clearly knew the terrifying effects of the Saint King pill. It was a relic left behind by the first Saint King of Tian Fa and was also the greatest taboo in the Tian Fa ferocious lands. Although they were full of confidence in their brother-in-law, June Moxie, they were still not too optimistic about the outcome. On the other side, in the study of the June family, all the members of the June family were gathered. Jun Zhantian looked at Dongfang, Wen Exan, Jun Wui, Guanqing Han, Du Xiaoi, and Han Yinyao in front of him. His expression was unusually heavy as he slowly announced a decision. This old man only recently found out that Shui Yin is actually a Xian beast and is also the #1 beast king of Tian Fa, the Venerable Mei. Humans and beasts were always different. No matter how outstanding Shui Yin was, no matter how respected her status was, this difference in their bones was still difficult to overcome. But Shui Yin had done more for the Jun family than anyone else. Her support for Mo Xie was also greater than anyone else. If not for Shui Yin, perhaps the Jun family would already be a pile of rubble now. The Jun family's ancestral teachings require the descendants to be indomitable and have a clear conscience. Shui Yin is loyal to Mo Xie and the Jun family, and has even contributed greatly. This old man approves of such a granddaughter-in-law. Everyone nodded their heads. Everyone had seen how Mei Xuyan treated June Moxie and how much she had contributed to the Jun family. But the matter of Mo Xie marrying Shui Yin as a human will still cause great debate and criticism in the world. Even within the family, there will be people gossiping about it. Today, this old man will say the ugly things first. The old man paused, his eyes filled with sorrow, and continued. Everyone here, Wen Xan is Mo Xie's mother, Wu Yi and Yin Yao, our third uncle's third aunt. Qing Han and Xiao Yi are Mo Xie's fiancés. We are all on the same side, so this old man will not hide anything. Today, this old man will make the decision. Shui Yin is met with an accident, but whether she lives or dies, she will be Mo Xie's wife in the future. Do you all understand? Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Dongfang Wen Xin said, "This is something that everyone knows. A good girl like Shui Yin is hard to find. Even if you didn't say this, I will not allow Shui Yin to suffer any grievances. I have long recognized her position. Now, I only hope that the heavens will protect her and not let any accidents happen." Guanqing Han and Du Xiaoi both blushed and nodded lightly. Their eyes were filled with worry, and they said in unison, "I hope that Sister Shui Yin will be fine. The heavens bless the kind and turn misfortune into blessing." Jun Zhantian nodded and said with great relief, "As long as Shui Yin is alive, she will be Mo Xie's official wife. If she really dies, she can be buried in the Jun family's ancestral grave and become the mistress of the third generation. Shui Yin is older than both of you. I believe the two of you won't have any objections, right?" He said this to Guanqing Han and Du Xiaoi. The two of them looked at each other and nodded hurriedly. Du Xiaoi said, "Grandpa, don't worry. I admire Sister Shui Yin the most. I can't wait to admire her. How could I have any other thoughts? I agree with her being the eldest sister. Sister Han is the second sister, and I'm the third." But in her heart, she added, "If I can't be the eldest, being the third is also good. Haven't I seen people fighting for the third? If I don't act fast, I'm afraid I'll become the fourth." Grandpa Jun nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, he looked around at everyone, and his eyes shone brightly. "One more thing. From now on, If anyone in the June family dares to make a fuss about the Xian beasts and humans, no matter who they are, they will be executed. They will not be spared. From now on, this will be written in the June family's ancestral teachings. As the eldest in the June family, this old man will make this decision today. Jun Wui nodded deeply and said, "Father, don't worry. If anyone dares to make a fuss about this, as the current patriarch, I will be the first to not let them go. I will personally execute them." Jun Tian nodded and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. He said tiredly, "All right, all of you are dismissed. If Mo Xie returns with news of Shui Yin, no matter what, you must let this old man know as soon as possible." Today's decision was made because I had no other choice. I was once like everyone else, a reader. At that time, even if an author were to update 10 chapters a day, I wouldn't feel anything. But now I know how much effort it takes to update more than 10,000 words a day. In the eyes of many people, we have already become accustomed to the 4 chapters we update every day. They have already forgotten that the minimum number of chapters we update is 2. For chapters has already become a matter of course. In fact, if one day we don't update 4 chapters, we will be scolded. Then, if we explode, we will scold the author. If we don't explode, we will complain about laziness. In any case, we will be scolded anyway. We're used to it. Previously, there were people who constantly threatened us, saying that if we continue like this, we will stop subscribing and take it off the shelves. Today, there were also people who threatened us, saying that if we continue like this, we will take it off the shelves. Well, everyone's reasons for taking it off the shelves were all piled up. There are many authors in Qidian, and there are also many who exchange their updates for monthly votes. Everyone is used to it and doesn't find it strange. But I have not made any conditions for 2 years in a row. Today, I was forced into a corner and decided to exchange my updates for monthly votes on the last day, and there are already so many people saying that my character is not good. Haha. I am an author. Let me put it this way. I need to eat, I need to dress, I need to buy things, I need to survive. And where do these come from? Subscriptions, monthly votes. It is undeniable that monthly votes cannot directly generate economic benefits, and the monthly votes bonus is also not much. But the higher the position of the monthly votes, the better the effect of publicity, and more people will subscribe. In this way, it will generate huge economic benefits. Many readers would choose to read the top 3 of the monthly votes, then the top 10. If I put it this way, perhaps everyone will understand. I will say the truth from the bottom of my heart. I write books to earn money. Perhaps this is a little vulgar, a little unscrupulous, but this is the truth. I write books not for the peace of mankind, nor to fill the world with love. There is only one goal: to make money on the basis of entertaining everyone. RMB. Words, I say it plainly, it has always been like this. Sometimes it is very unpleasant to hear, and some people will not accept it. But this is the truth. I have always been like this, saying whatever is on my mind, and I have never played any tricks with anyone. I hope that everyone can understand. Lastly, I will say this: I am not writing a famous novel, and it does not have any educational value. It is just a simple piece of literature for entertainment. Everyone should understand what I mean. Hee hee. Also, some people say that Jun Moxie's luck is so good that everything is his, and everyone else is stupid. Chapter 751. Guaranteed, second update. Father, you should rest for a while. You haven't had a good rest for 3 days and 3 nights. If this goes on, how can you hold on? Han Yinyao said worriedly. How can I be at ease if there's no news from Shui Yan's side? Jun Tian sighed. Such a good girl. Dongfang Wen Xian and the rest nodded at the same time, their faces filled with worry. Yes, as long as the news about Mei Shuyan was not confirmed, no one would be able to truly be at ease. Jun Moxie's figure finally appeared in front of the Jun family's gate. Long Crane, Big Bear, and the others have been waiting here for a long time. So, they swarmed over like a swarm of bees and couldn't wait to be the first to ask questions. Everyone had an anxious and complicated expression on their faces. Their faces were filled with longing and a thick sense of worry. They were afraid of hearing the news that they didn't want to hear. Everyone looked at June Mo anxiously from the bottom of their hearts. There were even some beast kings who had already taken human form. Although they were all huge and burly, tower-like figures, their eyes were filled with tears. Brother-in-law, big sister. How is she? Brother-in-law, you're back. Where's big sister? Brother-in-law, how is big sister now? Are her injuries serious? Will she be back soon? Where's big sister? Why didn't she come back with brother-in-law? We can't lose big sister. Brother-in-law. In this period of time, when everyone was tidying up the room, they had already discovered Mei Xuan's message. From now on, Mo, Xie's orders are my, Mei Xuan's orders. The brothers of Tian Fa must not disobey. When they saw this message, everyone's heart was heavy. This message revealed an extremely ominous omen, and when they linked it to the battle that night, they were even more anxious. Now that they saw June Moxie returning alone, they couldn't help but be anxious. Looking at the sincere emotions on the faces of this group of big and tall men in front of him, as well as the undisguised concern and anxiety, June Moxie's heart instantly surged with an indescribable feeling. Who said that dark beasts were cold-blooded and completely emotionless? The feelings of a profound beast were the most sincere, the most precious, and the most unconcealable. Shuiyin, you should be proud that you have such a group of brothers and sisters. Even without our previous relationship, I will do my best just because we are brothers. Humans and Xian beasts were indeed incompatible. Xian beasts never knew how to conceal themselves. How could they have the cunning tricks of humans? Compared to these pure Xian beasts, some humans were truly worse than beasts. Everyone, don't worry. Your big sister's injuries are indeed serious this time, but after my treatment, her life is no longer in danger. However, Shuiyan's injuries this time are indeed a little troublesome. I have already sent her my master, and he is currently treating her injuries. Master has already said that there will definitely not be any major problems. It's just that it might take a little longer to recuperate. You don't need to be so anxious. I will inform you of the news of your big sister's recovery in time. However, this period of recuperation is very important. Everyone, do not disturb her. June Moxie thought about it, and felt that this reason was the most reassuring. Long live. Big sister is fine. I told you that brother-in-law is so powerful that he can even deal with the Saint King pill. Bear Mountain jumped up abruptly and jumped very high. His mouth was wide open, and he was instantly beaming with joy. That's great, that's great. Long live brother-in-law. Brother-in-law's master is really a great person. When I see him again, I swear that I will definitely kowtow to him 10,000 times. Big sister's fine, Abo. Earthcracker rubbed his eyes, crying and laughing at the same time. The beasts who heard this also became happy because of this exciting good news. Their previous worries were swept away, and they began to celebrate in ecstasy. The beasts roared together, their voices shaking the heavens. Ha ha ha, Tiger King. Don't you remember that big sister always uses you guys as an example? And fourth brother bear, look at how happy you are. Every time big sister kicks you like a ball, everyone is watching. Just wait and see. If big sister doesn't look after our Tian Fa4s properly when she comes back, she will still take care of you two fools. At that time, everyone will just watch the show, and no one will help the two of you. Long Crane rubbed his red eyes, concealing the tears of joy that were about to fall. At this moment, his heart that had been hanging in suspense all this time could finally be put down. His mood improved. He couldn't help but tease Bear Mountain and Big Sister Bear. What's the big deal about hitting us and scolding us? Big sister hits us and scolds us. That proves that big sister cares about us and still thinks about us. At least we are not unloved children. We are happy. We are happy. What can you do about it? Third brother Crane, it seems like you have been scolded by big sister quite a number of times, right? Third brother, not to mention fourth brother, everyone is the same. If Tian Fa doesn't look after it well, do you think you can run away when big sister returns? You still have the face to gloat here. Don't tell me you're jealous. Bear Mountain retorted sarcastically, not giving in at all. Big Sister did scold me, but she always gives me face. Unlike you guys, it seems like you won't understand unless you get beaten up. Long Crane rolled his eyes and said, "Go to hell, give you face? Big Sister chased you around the Tion Fa forest that day, and Big Sister beat you up. Who didn't see that? Big Sister is really giving you enough face." That face is earth-shattering. Earthcracker laughed heartily. Xianhe's skin is really thick. No wonder you can be third brother. This Tiger King can't even catch up to you. That was an accident. That time, Motherf asterisk cur. I won't forgive you. Long Crane was a loss for words, and finally flew into a rage out of humiliation. He jumped forward, and the three of them tangled together. This joyous mood instantly infected everyone in the June family, and everyone was beaming with joy. There was jubilation everywhere, and all kinds of howling sounds rang out, like the raging tides of the sea spreading far and wide. Although the other members of the June family felt dizzy from the roaring of the sea waves, they still had a relieved smile on their faces. Finally, it's all right. God bless us. We'll let these guys mess around as much as they want this time, although it's a little uncomfortable, but it's fun to watch. Junimo Xie was also laughing heartily, but in his heart, he had already made up his mind. Shuiyin, no matter what it takes, I will make sure you recover as soon as possible and come back to your brothers. The feelings they have for you are not fake awe. I'm really happy for you. I'm also happy for myself. They're your good brothers, and they're also my good brothers, June Moxies. After laughing with Long Crane and the rest for a while, June Moxie walked into the hall and went to the inner study. As soon as he entered, June Zhantian, June Wui, Dongfang, and when Xin could keenly feel that there was something wrong with June Moxie today. This kind of subtle, almost intuitive feeling could only be vaguely sensed by those closest to him. The June Mo of today had lost some of his usual liveliness. Instead, he had gained some calmness, an indescribable calmness, like a volcano before an eruption, like the sea before a hurricane. Although calm, it was hard to predict. Although his face still had that faint smile of the past, there was obviously a bit more awe and killing intent in that smile now. Every step he took was like a moving volcano, as if it could erupt at any time. Seeing him like this, everyone's hearts that had just calmed down became anxious again. Could it be that the good news that June Moxie said earlier was fake? Was it just to comfort the Shin beasts of Tion Fa? Emosia, tell Mother, how is Shuiyin? We want to hear the truth. Dongfang Wen Xin was the first to ask. As she said this, everyone's eyes focused on June Moxie's face. Shuiyin's life is indeed no longer in danger, but her injuries this time are really serious. It's too serious. June Mo Xie laughed bitterly. If I want to truly recover, I'll need too much time. There was an unconcealable disappointment and pain in June Moxie's eyes. This time, Mei Shuiyin's level had directly dropped to the bottom of the valley. She was not even the lowest level Xian beast anymore. To recover to the strength of a 4th level venerable, even with the full support of the Hongjun Pagoda, the recovery time would be extremely long. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it would take an indefinite amount of time, so long that it was unbearable. The previous strength was the accumulation of Mei Shuiyin for hundreds of years. Once it was all gone, it was easier said than done to return to the peak. If one were to be more pessimistic, the people of the June family might not even have the chance to see Mei Shuiyin in her human form again. None of them had that much lifespan. Thinking of this, June Moxie's mind suddenly flashed, and he suddenly remembered something. The Nine Nether First Young Master had 99 wives on this continent, and when he came to Earth, he also vaguely said that these wives seemed to have followed him there, because at that time, there was a sentence. His wives' cultivation was not enough, so he could only wait for a few more years. Then, these wives were all natives of the Xian continent. Just like his grandfather, mother, and third uncle, they were all ordinary people. How could they live with him for 10,000 years? Could it be that there was some secret to this? June Moxie fell into deep thought. Longevity. Is it possible? From this moment onwards, Jun Mo Xie suddenly had a new worry on his mind. As long as she is fine, this is already the best news. Dongfang Wen Xan heaved a sigh of relief and said, Mo Xie, no matter what, you must not let down Shui Yan's love for you in this life. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Dongfang Wen Xian's heart was filled with guilt. After all, Mei Shuyan had fought a saint without a care for her that day. This made her feel touched, worried, and guilty. She thought that she was a burden to her daughter-in-law. Chapter 752. Mo Xie, don't worry. God bless. Sister Shui Yan will definitely recover soon. Guanqing Han said softly, no matter what decision you make, we will support you. I'll wait for you. Guanqing Han was smart. She could sense the huge change in Jun Moxie. If it was the previous Jun Moxie, although he was shrewd and ruthless, he was still a boy. But at this moment, after this metamorphosis, Jun Moxie was already a man, an out-and-out, indomitable man. She could clearly feel that this incident had an unprecedented impact on Jun Moxie's feelings. But no matter what, she was willing to wait. This was the first time Guanqing Han had revealed her feelings for Jun Moxie, because the current Jun Moxie, although ruthless and strong, was undoubtedly at his weakest and most helpless moment, especially feelings. He needed her comfort. Du Xiaoyi looked at Jun Moxie with her big bright eyes and said seriously, Big brother Mo Xie, what Big Sister Wan said is exactly what I wanted to say. No matter what, we will accompany you and wait for Big Sister Shui Yan's return. Jun Mo Xie smiled and looked at the two of them deeply. Don't worry. She'll be fine. I'll be fine. You guys will be fine too. After a pause, he said, I'm going to cultivate. With that, he turned around and walked out. Dongfang Wen Xian felt a little puzzled. Looking at Jun Moxie's back slowly disappearing, she couldn't help but turn her head in astonishment and said, That's not right. With Mo Xie's character, why didn't he mention anything about revenge after suffering such a big loss this time? He didn't even ask who his enemy was. Isn't this too unusual? As soon as she said that, everyone started to feel strange. Jun Tian sighed. Is there really something unusual about it? From today onwards, Mo Xie was a real man. There were some things that only needed to be done, not said. What was the point of talking about this enmity? The only way was to take action. As for who the enemy is, Mo Xie should know better than any of us. So, why is there a need to ask? At night, Li Yuran was alone in his room in the second prince's residence, sitting quietly. The oil lamp flickered in front of him. His expression was calm and deep, but he seemed to be waiting for something. After a long time, a silhouette flashed, and a person suddenly appeared in his room out of nowhere. White clothes, sharp eyebrows, handsome face, but expressionless. His hands were behind his back, and his eyes were cold and solemn. It was Jun Moxie. Jun Moxie wanted revenge, but he knew who he was up against. If he said it in front of his family, it would only make them worry. So he did not say it. But he knew that there was another person who would know the answer, and he would know it better than anyone else. That person was Li Yuran. So, when he returned to the courtyard, he immediately used the yin-yang escape and rushed over. Endure? I can't King endure anymore. If I don't make the 3 holy lands bleed like a river, I will write my name backwards. I will no longer be called Jun Moxie. I will be called Siem Majuan. You're here? I knew you would come looking for me. I've been waiting for you. Li Yuro smiled as he filled the teacup in front of him with tea and said faintly. The moment Jun Moxie appeared, Li Yuran seemed to relax. He looked up at Jun Moxie and smiled. If you didn't come and find me, I would have been really worried. Jun Moxie smiled and said, Li Yuran, do you know that your biggest weakness is that you are too smart? Being smart is not necessarily a good thing. But sometimes, not being smart can lead to a tragic death. Li Yuran smiled and said, Third young master, at least on this point, you and I are the same kind of person. But if I were you, I would not rashly attract the 3 holy lands. In front of absolute power, even if you have 1,000 clever plans, it will be useless. The change in front of you is the best proof. You have miscalculated on this point. I know that if you were me, you would choose to endure it. You would endure it until you possess strength that no one can contend against. You would be able to shake the world the moment you appear, and you would be the only one in the world. Only then would you reveal your strength. Then you would sweep through the martial world and shake the world. You would use the most ruthless and cruel methods to wipe out all opposing voices. Regardless of the cost, in order to achieve his goal, he would do anything to accomplish it. Those who obey me will prosper, and those who oppose me will die. Jun Moxie smiled and sat down in front of him. This is you, Li Yuran. But it is not me, Jun Moxie. You are right. That is exactly what I think. So, we are two different kinds of people. Li Yuran said, although my methods are shameless, ruthless, and even despicable, but at least before I grow my wings, I will not become the target of public criticism. But you, ever since you appeared, all the winds and clouds in the sky have been gathering towards you. Although it is exciting and hot-blooded, it is also the biggest risk. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Even if you are unharmed, what about the people around you? Rising too fast is your fatal weakness. Li Yuran went straight to the point and said sharply, you've risen too quickly. Moreover, you're the only one who has risen. You don't have a deep foundation to back you up. And your speed of rise has attracted the attention and fear of the higher-ups. If they do not deal with you, who will they deal with? Not to mention the fact that you are now enemies with the three holy lands. Even if you have maintained a good relationship with them, they will still destroy you. Because the threat of your rising speed is too big. It is so big that no one can tolerate it. Li Yuran was a little envious and sighed. As the higher-ups, no one will sit and watch someone like you rise. Because there is no end to your rising speed. You're only 18 years old. Only 18 years old. But they have cultivated for their whole lives, or even hundreds of years, and most of them are not as good as you. If you do not die, how can they be at ease? Could it be that they had to watch helplessly as he rose to power and trample them under his feet one by one, making them bow to his orders? This is something that no one can accept. Jun Moxie smiled lang-lang and said, in life, one must hold the wind and clouds in one's hand. Even if one cannot control it, one must lift it up with one hand. Otherwise, what is the point of living for a lifetime? According to what you said, to endure for a lifetime and then explode? Then wouldn't this life be without any disturbance? Wouldn't it be too boring? I am Jun Moxie. I want the wind and clouds in the world to move with me. I want to be unbridled and fearless. I look at the world coldly. I want to be arrogant and wild. Jun Moxie said calmly, so what if it is the three holy lands? They don't want me to step on them, but can I step on them? But in life, there are some dark sides that must be removed, understood, and faced. Maybe you think that I am despicable, shameless, and heartless. But people like me, if you believe in them, you will live the most comfortable life. Li Yuran said calmly, because I only believe in myself. Other than myself, there is no one else. But people like you also live the most pitiful life. Jun Moxie looked at him pitifully. Whether it is pitiful or not, everyone has their own views, and everyone has their own way of living. Li Yuran said proudly, as long as I don't think it is pitiful, then my life will be a success. As long as I succeed in the end, even if I have to pay a price, so what? Perhaps everyone's life is in the depths of their own hearts. On this point, we all have our own standpoints. Jun Moxie said quietly, today, I think you know my purpose for coming here. Of course, otherwise I wouldn't have waited for you. Li Yuran smiled, and I am very glad that you are not here to kill me. Kill you? Maybe I will in the future, but now I won't. You have a reason for me not to kill you. Jun Moxie said calmly. His eyes flashed, and his gaze was sharp. Apart from continuing to look for reasons to not let you kill me, I won't let you have the chance to kill me. Li Yuran chuckled, because I've seen myself clearly, and I've also seen you clearly. Third young master, you can only be a friend, not an enemy. Even if you're not a friend, you can't be an enemy either. After saying this, Li Yuran quickly changed the topic. What does third young master want to know? Let's get straight to the point. I want to know everything you know. Everything. Jun Moxie said Lengling, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. All right. This time, it was very sudden. Now that you are here, I can only say, I am very regretful. I admit that I have no way to change this matter. Third young master, I am a selfish person. I have always been. At that time, I did not even think about going out to warn you. Let's not talk about whether I could go out or not, or whether I could do it. But, regardless of whether I could do it or not, the consequences would be that I would be finished. Li Yuran said frankly. Moreover, with so many burdens here, Venerable Mei would definitely not be able to escape. Even if I sent a letter in advance, it would still be the same. She would not escape. Get to the point. Li Yuran, whether you're selfish or not, that is your business. It has nothing to do with me, and it is meaningless. Jun Moxie said indifferently. I only want to know what happened this time. Who was the one who came up with the plan? Li Yuran laughed bitterly. The three Holy Lands sent 3 saints as their leaders for supremes, and a leader who seems to be a venerable level character. Although there are not many of them, their strength is extremely strong. As he said this, he did not wait for Jun Moxie to ask again and began to introduce the entire lineup of the 3 Holy Lands in detail. One name after another flowed out of his mouth, while Jun Moxie remained silent, silently memorizing these names. These were all the culprits who had caused Mei Shuiyan's injuries, whether directly or indirectly, whether they had personally acted or not. Not a single one would be let off. As for the mastermind, it was the yin-yang saint Jiang Junji. Li Yuran laughed bitterly. At the start, he had suggested to capture your grandfather and use him as a threat to force your master to appear. But I rejected it. After that, for some reason, they discovered the weakness of the Jun family from some clues and confirmed that your powerful master was not in the Jun family at the moment. Thus, they began to take action. And right at this time, Venerable Mei led his troops and returned triumphantly. As for what happened after that, I believe you already know. Li Yuran had mentioned that he had secretly helped Jun Moxie before and did not announce it openly. But he believed that Jun Moxie would understand and would not deny it. No matter what his original intentions were, it would not be too much even if he gave away 8 or 10 of such favors. Chapter 753. Jun Mo's voice was low, and he didn't emphasize his words. But Li Yuran only felt a chill suddenly penetrate her heart, and she couldn't help but shiver. But when she saw Jun Moxie's eyes flicker and glance at her, Li Yuran suddenly felt that she had some foresight in doing so. Moreover, she actually felt a little happy. Where are these people now? Jun Moxie was silent for a moment, then said, if they were still in the prince's mansion, you wouldn't have the guts to say these words. Li Yuran sweated a little, then said, since that night's battle, the illusory blood sea's 3 saints were completely annihilated, and the other saints were also injured by Venerable Mei's sword aura and the heavenly might of the thunder retribution. They were even more afraid that this would cause the mystical beasts to recklessly retaliate, and they might not be able to escape unscathed in their current state. So they left the city that night. Now, their whereabouts are unknown. There was a faint trace of self-mockery in Li Yuran's eyes, because when they left the city, they didn't inform her, and they didn't want to take her along with them. This meant that he wasn't in their eyes or hearts at all. Or perhaps he was just a burden. In their eyes, from the beginning to the end, she was just an insignificant character. Once her value was gone, she could be thrown aside. They didn't need to care about her life and death. I'm afraid she's worse than a chess piece. But I'm also a human, and I may not be inferior to you. In fact, my wisdom far surpasses yours. What right do you have to treat me like this? Although I can't kill you, but someone can. With my help, I'll definitely be able to speed up your deaths. Now, a small character like me will make you regret it to the greatest extent. Even an ant has a chance to bite an elephant to death. Of all things, you shouldn't have treated me, Li Yuran, like this. This was the root cause of the change in Li Yuran's mentality. So they abandoned you. Poor abandoned pawn. Jun Moxie smiled. He understood why Li Yuran was so cooperative today. Before he came, he even planned to do something. It's very likely that they've gathered together and gathered their strongest forces in order to adapt to the situation. So if you want to take revenge, now is not the best time. Even if we could defeat the enemy, our own losses will also be considerable. Li Yuran didn't care about Jun Mo Siege Schadenfreude. Instead, he continued, the best way is to divide and annihilate them. If you suddenly show yourself, you will become their target. They will definitely prepare to deal with you. It is very likely that they will use some underhanded methods to deal with you. For example, the method they used to deal with Venerable May. I believe that it will be equally effective against you. It was impossible to guard against. Therefore, during this period of time, it would be best for you to create a false impression and make them think that you're not in the Tianxiang city. Moreover, you must make them wary of you and stop targeting your family. This requires you to think of a good way to lower their vigilance, so that it will be easier for you to act secretly in the future. Away. Jun Moxie frowned. At this point, there were not many suitable methods. Li Yuran was right. If they used his family to threaten him, it would indeed be a big problem. At this time, Jun Moxie suddenly had the idea of moving his family into the Tian Fa forest in advance. That was the only way he would not have to worry about anything. However, his plan was to move immediately after settling all grudges. Looking at the current situation, he needed to speed up his pace. Tianxiang's royal family. Then, let's destroy them first. Jun Moxie's eyes flashed. He secretly calculated in his heart and pondered, I've thought of one. It should be suitable. This plan could destroy the Holy Lands. Li Yuran's eyes flashed. With a ruthless look, she said, the 3 Holy Lands have a total of 3 targets for this operation. One is you, another is Venerable May, and the last one is your master. Now that Venerable May has fallen, there's only... Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a tight grip on his neck. Jun Moxie had actually grabbed him by the neck. There was almost no room for him to breathe. When he raised his head in panic, he saw Jun Moxie's cold eyes shooting out murderous intent. Then, an extremely cold voice entered his ears. She has not fallen. Remember this. If you use the word fallen on her again, I will kill you. After that, Jun Moxie let go. Li Yuran slumped back onto the chair. She covered her throat and coughed a few times. A look of understanding flashed across her eyes. As expected, Mei Shuyan was indeed Jun Moxie's true reverse scale. It should be said that his family was his reverse scale. It's a slip of the tongue. The 3 Holy Lands' current targets are only you and your master. Li Yuran did not get angry. She took a few breaths and continued. Because she now knew Jun Moxie's bottom line, she felt that it was worth it to be grabbed by the neck for a while. You can spread the news that in order to avenge Venerable May, you're going to find your master and come back for revenge. And you have to say that your master's location is a little further away from Tianxiang. This way, both sides will have more time to deal with each other. And this time is your time. Li Yuran looked at Jun Moxie and said calmly, this is not only a strategy, but also a way to turn things around. With your current strength, although you are already very strong, you have no chance of winning against the remaining 6 saints. Even just one of them is enough to make the Jun family fall into eternal damnation. The 3 Holy Lands' main focus is on your master. And the key to your revenge is also your master. You can't not take advantage of this. Only by making better use of this will you have the greatest hope of revenge. Li Yuran said, this way, I believe that the saints of the 3 Holy Lands will definitely go all out to fight against your master. Furthermore, they will think that when you and your master return, their goal will have been achieved. This way, they will not go against the Jun family anymore. After all, with their status as saints, it is not good to say that they repeatedly go against the common people. The 3 Holy Lands target is only you. If the Jun family doesn't have you, They won't even look at you. Li Yuran said, although what I said is unpleasant, it is definitely the truth. You should consider it carefully. Jun Moxie frowned and thought deeply about Li Yuran's strategy. Jun Mo Xie had no choice but to admit that Li Yuran was a man who was used to scheming and scheming. Jun Mo Xie had gained a lot of inspiration from his words. Li Yuran was truly worthy of her title as a conspiracy expert. Her belly full of evil tricks was indeed vicious and ruthless. And this plan could be said to be all-encompassing, taking into account all aspects. Even the original hidden worries had been eliminated. I will consider this plan carefully. You give me a plan, and I will give you one in return. During this time, you can help the second prince. Let him kill the eldest and the third prince, as well as his father. You have been staying here for so long. You can't just stay for free. You should at least give something in return. It is not good to live and eat for free all the time. Jun Moxie suddenly changed the topic and brought up another completely unrelated matter. Then he smiled at Li Yuran. His smile was cold and stern, and his white teeth revealed a boundless cruelty. So this is your real revenge. Li Yuran instantly understood. He widened his eyes and lost his composure for the first time. Let him watch his own flesh and blood kill each other. And it is also because of the human, so it is indeed brilliant. Is this the plan you have come up with to avenge your father? Hee. Li Yuran, you are really smart. You even know the inside story. What do you think? The plan I gave you is not bad, right? Jun Moxie raised his eyebrows. Not only is it not bad, it is simply wonderful. Li Yuran laughed evilly. I'm willing to lend a hand to such a wonderful plan. Just let me know when you've made the arrangements on your side. I'm looking forward to this wonderful human tragedy right now. This way, my heart will be very happy. Even if I can't become the emperor, it is also good to let the royal family die because of me. You are really a bit of a pervert. Jun Moxie looked at him. I am leaving. Thank you. Jun Moxie left these words, turned around, and floated away. From his face, it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. However, the two words he left behind were extremely important to Li Yuran, and these two words were what Li Yuran had always wanted. Thank you. It was these two extremely ordinary words. Thank you. These are also the two words I wanted to say to you. Li Yuran stood alone, but a smile suddenly appeared on his face. He muttered to himself, Li Yuran have always been scheming behind the scenes for so long that I have actually developed such a bad habit. Could it be that always scheming for others is the true meaning of my life? The night passed slowly without a word. Jun Moxie appeared in another place. The second prince, Yang Dan, was chasing a few concubines out of his room in frustration. My illness has not recovered yet, and I really do not have the mood to do anything. In addition, the people from the three holy lands had suddenly left, causing this second prince to lose his pillar of support. Even if Li Yuran was still here, what could he do? At this time, Jun Moxie appeared in front of him. By the time the second prince realized it, Jun Mo Xie was already pacing around in his room with his hands clasped behind his back, leisurely and at ease. The doors and windows were all intact. So how did he get in? Was he a human or a ghost? The second prince was shocked to see Jun Moxie's arrival. He was about to scream, but Jun Moxie had already covered his mouth. Instantly, his body began to tremble, and his eyes revealed a look of fear. Chapter 754. After saying these somewhat ambiguous words, Jun Dashao let go of his hand and slowly wiped it on the second prince's clothes. Jun, Mo Xie, what are you, doing? The second prince's teeth chattered as he took a few steps back in fear. Although he was afraid, he understood that there was no point in screaming. With Jun Moxie's legendary strength, killing him might not be as difficult as killing an ant. Don't retreat anymore. If you do, I'll really kill you. Jun Moxie smiled. Yes, that's good. Let me ask you, Yang Dan, are you willing to become the emperor? What do you mean? Yang Dan looked at him in fear. When he heard the words become the emperor, his eyes suddenly flashed with an unconcealable passion. As long as you do a few things, I'll let you ascend to the throne. Jun Moxie's eyes shone brightly as he said in a bewildered tone, I won't go back on my word. Hypnosis. Although it was only a slight use of mental energy, it was only to stir up the second prince's ambition and not to control him. However, how weak was the second prince's mental energy? He was in a state of extreme panic. How could he resist Jun Moxie's hypnosis that could even bewitch a venerable? What is it? Tell me. There's nothing I can't do. As long as you guarantee that I will ascend to the throne, I'll do anything. The fear in the second prince's eyes slowly disappeared, replaced by a wild ambition. The word throne caused his thirst for the past 30 years to boil. Even without Jun Moxie's further bewitchment, the second prince had already become excited on his own and had actually agreed without any openings. So weak. Even I didn't expect that I would be so weak. Jun Moxie cursed in his heart. As a prince, Yang Dan was the first person in history to ruin his body to such an extent. If not for the fact that he was in a difficult situation, he would have long since lost his virginity. Actually, I'm just providing you with the simplest method. All you have to do is kill Yang Xiao and Yang Zhe, then kill Yang Huayu with your own hands. I, Jun Moxie, guarantee that you will be able to sit on that dragon throne. The Tianxiang imperial family's heirs have all passed away, and you are the sole ruler. Can't you think of such a simple method? Jun Moxie said in a low voice, his tone filled with extreme temptation. What? The second prince was stunned. Since ancient times, those who achieved great things did not bother with trifles. Which emperor was not vicious and merciless? If you can't even bear to kill your own competitors, and you don't even dare to kill them, how can you be the sole ruler? Jun Moxie whispered into his ear, as for Yang Xiao, Yang Zhe, and Yang Huayu, they're all your rivals, your nemesis, your obstacle to becoming a martial emperor. They are no longer your father or brother. You have to understand this. If they don't die, you will die, and you will never be able to ascend to that throne. As long as you have my support, there will be no obstacles in front of you. If you're the only one left, then you'll naturally sit on the throne. Now that the 3 holy lands have left, only I can help you. Jun Moxie said slowly. His words were said using a special spiritual power, directly resonating in the depths of the second prince's heart. Slowly, the sound reverberated in the second prince's heart and mind. Gradually, his entire being was filled with this voice. If I can't kill them, then I really have no hope. I might even die. As long as I kill them, I will be the emperor. They are my opponents, enemies. How can I be merciful to my enemies? Father, Yang Huayu, you have been the emperor for so many years. Haven't you had enough? Why do you still want to occupy that position? It's better for you to get off. Big brother, Yang Xiao, do you think that just because you are the eldest, the throne will definitely be yours? A few days ago, Father officially appointed you as the crown prince. You must be very happy, right? But what right do you have? So what if you were born a few years earlier than me? If the oldest person can become the emperor, then the most qualified person to become the emperor is a tortoise. They can live for more than 10,000 years. Third brother, Yang Zhe, who do you think you are? Do you think you can become the emperor? Do you think that just because you're the youngest, Father will spoil you and everyone will give in to you? Pooey, Emperor, do you think you are worthy? Slowly, the second prince's emotions became unprecedentedly agitated. He abruptly turned around and walked to the table in big strides. He stretched out his hand and picked up the teacup on the table. With a bang, he smashed it into pieces. Then, he flipped the table over with a crash. He stomped his feet and beat his chest. His face was red, and his eyes were crazed as he roared at the sky. F***CK. F***CK, his mother. Yang Dan's little universe had finally exploded from Jun Moxie's provocation. He huffed and puffed as he walked in front of Jun Moxie. Like a fighting rooster, all the hair on his body stood up. Jun Sunshao, are you serious? Are you really going to support me? As long as you can do it, I will send you to Qing Yun. Jun Moxie nodded. I won't go back on my word. All right. The second prince raised his leg and kicked the table, causing it to roll over a few times. He said angrily, "Then I will kill those 3 bastards. As long as I have third young master support, I can do anything." Right now, the second prince was already very emotional. He did not realize that those bastards were his own father, brothers, and he himself was the son of one of them, the younger brother of another, and the older brother of another. He wondered if they were all bastards. Yes, I'm going to kill those 3 bastards. June Moxie clapped his hands and looked at the unlucky table. He did not know if it was because the table was too hard or because the second prince was too weak, but it was still as sturdy as before. It did not seem to have moved at all. Even if it was a normal person who had never cultivated Qianqi, he would have been smashed to pieces after being thrown and kicked a few times. As for the second prince, it was unknown if he was angry or tired, but he was already gasping for breath after just a few hits. It seemed like he had only broken a teacup. June Moxie was a little impressed. A man's strength could actually be this weak. "But I don't have any strength. I don't have any strength at all," sob. The second prince vented his anger heroically. He was so tired that he was foaming at the mouth. Suddenly, he squatted on the ground and cried, as sad as a child. "Be good, it's okay. With my secret support, you will have strength. Li Yuran will also help you. You must remember to listen to Li Yuran. Whatever she asks you to do, you must do it, understand? As long as you do everything she asks of you, you will definitely ascend to the throne." June Moxie had already despised the second prince to the point of wanting to vomit, but he could only force himself to comfort him. Of course, he had to use his mental strength to penetrate these few sentences. "Really?" the second prince said excitedly. "Really?" June Moxie nodded. "I will definitely kill them. Those who stop me from becoming the emperor will die." The second prince said resolutely. He clenched his fist and swore. June Mo. Xie sneered disdainfully and disappeared without a trace again. The second prince was like a horse that had its butt chopped off. He immediately ran towards Li Yuran. June Moxie had just said that he must listen to Li Yuran. Li Yuran would help him ascend to the throne. Li Yuran was shocked. He was really shocked. Who would have thought that June Moxie would act so quickly? Not even an hour had passed since she left, and the second prince had already walked in angrily. Furthermore, he was so agitated. When he talked about the emperor and the other 2 princes, it was as if he couldn't live under the same sky as them. It was as if those 3 were the ones who had killed his father and had just raped his wife. After listening for a long time, Li Yuran finally understood. Looking at the second prince, who was full of ambition, she couldn't help but feel a trace of sorrow for him. June Moxie did promise to help you ascend to the throne, but he only said to help you ascend to the throne. Did he say that you would be the emperor for life? There's a big difference between the 2, and you're so excited just like that. Even if I let you sit on the throne for a second, it's considered that I've fulfilled my promise. You're really the first idiot since ancient times. It's really too sad to be like you." She really didn't know how June Moxie had done it. He had actually managed to sway the second prince to this extent with just a few words. A talent, a super talent. Li Yuran was extremely cooperative even though he had such thoughts in his heart. Right now, under June Mo. Xie's influence, he had such a foolish master who would listen to his every word. In that case, he would be able to brazenly use his crafty plots and schemes. Although she wouldn't become an emperor herself, assisting such a puppet to become an emperor was also a very fulfilling thing. Although it was only for a short moment, becoming an emperor. At this moment, June Moxie had already returned to the June family's residence. June Dashao called Hai Chun Feng over and only gave a few instructions. Tell the Prince of Equality and Yang Mo to get ready. Hai Chun Feng received the order and left. The next day, the June family's June Moxie rode a fine horse. He whipped his whip and galloped out of the north gate at lightning speed. After a few hundred kilometers, he abandoned his white horse by the roadside and disappeared without a trace. The June family had also sent out some vague news. This time, June Moxie was extremely furious. He had already set out to look for his master and was ready to return at any time to take revenge. Moreover, the place where Jun Dashao's master lived seemed to be very far away. He would be eating and sleeping in the open on the road without stopping. This would probably be delayed for a very long time. However, this enmity must be avenged. It was said that Jun Mo Xie swore in the Jun family's ancestral hall that this was what he said: "There's no smoke without fire." In the past few days, there have been many people waiting in the dark around the Jun family's residence to pry for information. When such shocking news came out, everyone knew about it in an instant. However, the Jun family seemed to have issued a gag order. No one was allowed to talk about this news. Therefore, if anyone stopped the Jun family's servants to inquire about it, they would be met with suspicious and cautious gazes, as well as surprise. How did you know? Then this news secretly spread throughout the entire Tianxiang city. 1 to 10, 10 to 100, the saints of the three holy lands looked at each other in a secret place and smiled. We've finally succeeded. The final goal is finally about to be achieved. Jun Moxie had already set out to invite his master. Chapter 755. Today is the 6th chapter. 5,508 more chapters. Will there be a 7th chapter? I'm working on it. There's still an hour left. But Venerable Mei is not dead? How is that possible? Someone asked. You believe that? This is obviously a lie made up by Jun Moxie to confuse people. With such a strong backlash, plus the lives of 3 saints and the power of heaven and earth, how could she not be dead? Even the 3 saints from the illusory ocean of blood died for her. If she is not dead, then there is no justice in this world. Jun Moxie is obviously saying this to appease people. If she's not dead, why didn't he bring her home? I think these words can only fool those simple-minded Xian beasts. Someone carefully refuted this argument, and his words were reasonable. That makes sense. That's right. Jun Moxie said that he sent Mei Shuiyin to his master's place to recuperate, and now he went out for such a long time to look for his master. This is clearly contradictory. Those who killed him can deduce that Venerable Mei is definitely dead. Jun Moxie did not want to admit it, most likely because he was afraid that the Xian beasts would not listen to his orders because of Mei Shuiyin's death, so he made up these lies. Yes, since there's still some time before they return to Tianxiang, we can use this time to recuperate and wait for Jun Moxie and his master. I didn't expect Jun Moxie to be so tactful, knowing that we are waiting anxiously and actually fulfilled all our wishes at the same time, sending his master to his death. Not bad. This is really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Well said, Just as the Uro had deduced, the strength of the saints was indeed undeniably high. However, there was nothing wrong with his intelligence. He had actually thought that all the illusions were real, and the only truth was a lie. He could even come up with a reasonable reason for it. Too overbearing. However, this was also the brilliance of this plan. If it was anyone else, they would think that Jun Moxie wanted to take revenge, but Jun Moxie's strength was not enough. So, how could he take revenge? If he did not look for his own master, who else could he look for? Therefore, it was completely reasonable for Jun Moxie to look for his master. It was reasonable and in line with the current situation, and there's no other way. Jun Moxie was destined to have only one path. It had to be said that when Li Yuran was considering this plan, not only did she consider the reason, but she also considered what everyone from the 3 holy lands would think. This was more in line with human nature. That was tantamount to catering to their interests. It would be strange if this plan did not succeed. If the people from the 3 holy lands were in Jun Moxie's place, he would probably think the same way. And this was the most brilliant part of this plan. The only loophole was that Li Yuran and even the whole world did not know that the master of Jun Moxie was a fake matter. But since no one knew, then it did not matter anymore. So this plan was flawless. Everything that needed to be done had been done. The news of 9 fakes and 1 truth had also been released. Jun Moxie decided to use this period of time to sort out all the grudges and grievances. Tianxiang's Emperor Yang Huaiyu This old fellow had been comfortable for long enough. It's time to take care of him. Letting him die in the hands of his own son should make him feel very satisfied. In the Hongjun Pagoda, Mei Shuiyin only felt that she was floating in the clouds. In front of her, there was a bright and clear path that led to the endless heavens and earth. It seemed to have an irresistible temptation that was attracting her to walk on that path. She almost involuntarily floated towards that direction, as if she could not stop it. But at this moment, there was a sorrowful and angry shout that resounded in her heart. If the heavens want you to leave, then I will defy the heavens. Just by hearing this voice, one could imagine the emotions of the person who said this, as if he was about to vomit blood. It was a roar of anger and unwillingness that came from extreme disappointment and frustration. It was filled with hysteria, as if even the soul was ferociously issuing a furious threat to the heavens. She could not help but stop in her tracks. She wanted to turn back because she could tell that this was the voice of the person she loved the most. But she could not turn back. She used all her strength to resist the temptation of that bright path in the distance. Using all her strength to resist. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave him. I want to live on. I must live on. Finally, she succeeded in turning her head. Then, she felt a sharp pain all over her body and suddenly woke up. When she woke up, the first thing she did was to check her body. She sadly found out that this time, she was really finished. Not only had she returned to her original form, but the current her was not even the lowest level Xian beast, let alone a 4th level venerable. From the 4th level of the venerable realm to now, she was nothing. Such a huge difference almost caused Mei Shuiyin to collapse. But in her heart, she did not have the slightest bit of regret. As long as he can be well, it's fine. I'm still alive, and I can peek at him from afar. That's also good. Even if I can't see him, it will still be in my heart, will still be the person I love the most. As Mei Shuiyin thought about it, she suddenly realized that she was not in that warm embrace anymore. Thinking about it was one thing, but when she realized it, she suddenly felt an indescribable sense of loss. Could it be that after he found out about my original form, he couldn't accept it and abandon me? Yes, anyone would find it hard to accept that the peerless beauty who pledged undying love to him had turned into a little ferret. Right? Even if he abandoned me, it was right. Even if he didn't abandon me, I would have to leave anyway. But, my beloved, I hope that you will be happy all the way without any disasters or hardships in this life, she thought sadly as she slowly opened her eyes. But she found herself in an extremely strange place. The spiritual energy here was so thick that it almost suffocated her. What was this place? How could there be such a magical place in the mortal world? Mei Shuiyin opened her cute eyes wide in astonishment. She raised her head and looked around in shock. She felt the spiritual energy and vitality of heaven and earth surging into her body like tidewater. For a moment, she felt as if she was dreaming. If he continued to cultivate here, his recovery speed would increase by leaps and bounds. She was pleasantly surprised as she thought about it. The pure spiritual aura coming from under her body, however, gave her a new kind of shock. She suddenly discovered that under her body, the huge stone that was lying on the bed was actually emitting another kind of spiritual aura of heaven and earth. And it was equally pure. Far away, there was a large field of red flowers and green grass, swaying beautifully. No, those were definitely not ordinary flowers. In the Tianfa forest, Mei Shuiyin was used to seeing countless old spiritual herbs. But when she took a closer look, she suddenly covered her mouth in shock. With her eyesight, she could tell at a glance that these were all spiritual herbs that were more than 10,000 years old. There was no exception. How could this be possible? Was that still ginseng? The one beside it, was that snow ginseng? But, how could this ginseng grow so many times bigger than a radish? Mei Shuiyin almost thought that she had ascended to heaven. This was the legendary fairyland, definitely not the mortal world, because there was absolutely no such magical place in the mortal world at this moment. There was a strange fluctuation in the air. She was frightened and shrank her body. After all, she was still too weak. She curled up and closed her eyes, leaving only a slit, and peeked. A figure suddenly appeared here. It was him. Mei Shuiyan suddenly wanted to cry. It was him. He didn't abandon me. This must be the place that he found for me to heal. But how could I face him like this? How could I face him? Mei Shuiyan's heart was filled with fear and sadness. My enemy, how could I face you? How could you face me? Mei Shuiyan's heart trembled violently. She closed her eyes and didn't move at all. Might as well continue to pretend to be unconscious. It would also save the two of them from this indescribable awkwardness. Jun Moxie flashed into the Hongjun Pagoda and quietly looked at Mei Shuiyan, who had returned to her true form. He reached out his hand to check her breathing. It was slight and slow, and she was still in a deep sleep. It didn't worsen, and all the signs indicated that Mei Shuiyan was in the process of recovering. At this moment, he suddenly felt that his heart had actually calmed down. The viciousness that he had when he was outside also disappeared at this moment. The moment he saw that Mei Shuiyan was gradually getting better, his heart became filled with peace and tranquility. He had completely calmed down. Jun Moxie tilted his head and finally smiled helplessly. Shuiyan, you've really become a barometer of my emotions. Just now, when I was outside, I wanted nothing more than to slaughter everyone in the world. But when I saw that you were getting better, my mood immediately became better. He sighed with great satisfaction and bent down slightly, hugging Mei Shuiyan in his arms. Then he slowly sat down. Gently pressing his forehead against Mei Shuiyan's small head, Jun Moxie said in a low voice, Shuiyan, although I've already promised you that I can wait for the right opportunity to take revenge and accumulate my strength. But the 23 people from the 3 holy lands who harmed you this time, I will definitely not let them off. Especially those 6 saints, I will definitely not allow them to retreat so easily. And that Yin-Yang Saint Jiang Junji who used my mother to threaten you. Haha, I will definitely make him regret coming to this world. That bastard. Mei Shuiyan lay quietly in his arms, as if there was no movement at all. Jun Moxie stared at the white mist in the Hongjun Pagoda in a daze. He didn't even notice that Mei Shuiyan's ears had moved slightly. He still cares about me so much. Even though I'm no longer a human and have returned to my original form, he still cares about me like this. Mei Shuiyan's heart was suddenly filled with comfort and sweetness. Chapter 756. Mei Shuiyan humphed in her heart, feeling shy. So this guy had such bad intentions. Luckily I've returned to my original form, or else I won't be able to resist. Now, let's see what you can do. Mei Shuiyan thought sweetly and shyly. Sigh, this is the bad thing about men. Once they're impulsive, they can't control themselves, and they'll burn with lust. Poor me, I've been holding it in for a long time. I can't do this, I can't do that. Everywhere I go, there are supercilious eyes, rejection everywhere. It's not easy to find someone who doesn't reject me. But in the blink of an eye, a beauty turns into a little thing. Jun Moxie said regretfully and sighed. It's not easy for me. I've been holding it in. I want you to return to your human form, but I can't bear to let you go. After all, you're so cute right now. You didn't explain it clearly. It's your fault. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you're the little beast that I took advantage of in the Tian Fa forest? Rubbing and touching. It's so comfortable, it feels so good, it's so intoxicating. Jun Moxie continued to feel melancholy. His big hand was also unconsciously stroking Mei Shuiyan's body. This guy really doesn't have good intentions. Mei Shuiyan was both embarrassed and ashamed. She really wanted to bite that big, dishonest hand of hers. Really, without you by my side, I'm really lonely. Jun Moxie suddenly sighed, and his hand stopped moving. He said in a daze, Actually, I'm not a person of this world. My original world is too far away from here. Wandering alone in a foreign land. That kind of feeling, it's really not good. After all, I'm just a wandering soul from another world. And you, as a mystical beast, have transformed into a human. To you, the whole world is a different species. The two of us have too many similarities. Mei Shuyan finally couldn't bear it anymore, and her body trembled slightly. This sudden piece of news was too shocking. After all, I'm just a wandering soul from another world. Hearing these words from June Moxie's mouth, Mei Shuyan was shocked to the extreme. If she could speak, she would have screamed, but this time her body shook and finally woke June Moxie up. Shuyan, you're awake? Are you feeling better? June Moxie picked her up in ecstasy and made her face him. He opened his mouth wide and bit down on her little mouth. Mei Shuyan closed her eyes tightly, and her whole body trembled. You're awake. You're awake. It's fine if you're awake, but why are you still so shy? What's our relationship? We've done everything a couple should do. And no, we haven't done the most important thing yet. June Moxie laughed happily. You don't know how worried I've been these past few days. Heavens, you're my star, my moon, my sunshine, my life, ah. You're the flowers of spring, the coolness of summer, the fruits of autumn, and the warmth of winter, ah, ah, ah. June Dashao's mushy words made Mei Shuyan, who was now in the form of a mystical beast, involuntarily break out in goosebumps. Her whole body turned red, not from embarrassment, but from confusion. Therein, why are you trembling? Hurry up and open your eyes and look at me. Young Master June threatened. Otherwise, I'll spank your little butt. After saying this, he suddenly felt very proud and elated. Since the two of them knew each other, when had June Dashao ever felt so proud in front of Mei Shuyan? Now, he actually felt very good. He had finally gotten his revenge. Little girl, you've fallen into my hands now, haven't you? Who asked you to abuse me so often in the past? June Dashao laughed impudently. His face was full of joy, and his smile was sinister and lascivious. Mei Shuyan opened her little mouth, but closed it again. She even closed her little eyes and ignored this fellow. Go on and scream. Why don't you scream? Let me tell you honestly, even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. And you still dare to be uncooperative with me. Do you think that if you close your eyes and mouth, I won't be able to do anything? Watch as I don't spank your little butt. That feeling is amazing. June Dashao seemed to be very lascivious as he clamored. Mei Shuyan was shocked by him. She was really afraid that this fellow would humiliate her little thing. She hurriedly opened her eyes. Although she couldn't speak, she looked at him angrily. Other than embarrassment, there was also anger in her eyes. What I mean is, you're very beautiful there. Seeing that she was really angry, June Dashao quickly flattered. Your eyes are beautiful. Your eyebrows are beautiful. Your mouth is beautiful. You're beautiful from head to toe. No matter how I look at you, I can't get enough, Mei Shuyan was angry and angry at the same time, but she also wanted to laugh. Heavens, why did I have to meet such a clown? This fellow is too. Normal mystical beasts wouldn't be able to understand what humans were saying. But she had dropped so many levels and seemed to be nothing now. But why could she still understand what he was saying? How good would it be if she couldn't understand? At least she wouldn't be angry, and she wouldn't be so mushy. But it was undeniable that after being interrupted by June Moxie like this, the embarrassment she felt when facing June Moxie with her true form had already been greatly reduced. Being a little mushy actually felt pretty good. Shuyan, don't think too much. No matter what you look like, I like you. June Moxie saw that she was finally starting to let go of her worries, and he also relaxed. He said solemnly, You will always be the Shuyan in my heart. You have to believe in yourself, and even more so, you have to believe in me. Mei Shuyan raised her little head and faced him bravely for the first time. She looked at him in a daze, and after a while, she nodded lightly. The look in her eyes was full of trust and reliance. Although she didn't say anything, her mood and attitude were all expressed in silence. So obedient. June Moxie praised. Do you know? Shuyan, this place is actually inside my body. In other words, the two of us are now one person. Mei Shuyan looked at him in shock. Inside your body? Such a big space, then it could be inside your body? This was too unimaginable. But he couldn't possibly say such words to deceive her, right? June Moxie smiled and hugged her in his arms. Then, he used a gentle voice to explain his past and present life one by one. How he traveled the world single-handedly, how he looked at the pugilistic world in a carefree manner, and how he was brought to this foreign world in the end. The more Mei Xuan listened, the bigger her eyes widened. Such an unimaginable thing. Even with her vast knowledge, she had never heard of it before. Even the legends didn't seem to be like this. Looking at her adorable little face with her eyes wide open, listening intently, June Moxie couldn't help but smile. He lightly tapped the tip of her exquisite little nose and said, "There are always things that can't be imagined in this world, but there's nothing that can't be done. What's there to be surprised about?" Actually, even the so-called originator of Xian skills in this world, the Nine Nether First Young Master, was not a person of this world. But he and I came from two different places. If we were to really compare, I'm much more orthodox than him. That's a complete pervert and lunatic. While Jun Dashao was praising himself, he also viciously belittled the Nine Nether First Young Master. Mei Xueyin rolled her eyes and glared at him. If she was still in her human form, this look would naturally be extremely flirtatious. But now that she was in her original form, she was extremely adorable. Jun Moxie laughed heartily. He was inexplicably happy. "In, Xueyin, I've completely reconstructed your meridians for you. Don't speak now. It seems like even if you want to, you won't be able to. Follow me and guide your Xian Qi through the meridians. Remember this route." Jun Moxie smiled and said, "From now on, you will practice my martial arts." Mei Xueyin only felt an unusually cool and flexible force entering her body. It quickly circulated through a brand new meridian route that she had never seen before. Instantly, her entire body felt comfortable. After Jun Moxie retracted his hand, she followed this brand new meridian route and began to practice. Beside her ear, Jun Moxie's voice sounded. "Remember, this is the first level of the chant. Divine light moves, light shines brightly, will rises to the 9 heavens. Step on the celestial spring, grasp the universe. The heart is a treasure mountain. 9 refinements of the spirit, never to fall into the yellow springs." Mei Xuan silently memorized it. Not long after, she fell into a meditative state. She was pleasantly surprised to find that this set of martial arts was actually much stronger than the one she had practiced before. It was completely incomparable. She had only circulated it a few dozen times, but there was already an obvious change in her body. Furthermore, there was a subtle feeling that she could advance at any time. Jun Moxie silently watched as Mei Xueyin fell into a meditative state. He couldn't help but feel a little envious in his heart. He said with a burning gaze, "You're really blessed. Back when I first started practicing, I didn't know any specific routes. Even entering a meditative state was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But now you're good. I've directly made all your routes into Xiantian ones. And I've even skipped the introductory steps. People are really different. Beautiful women are really popular." After lamenting and praising himself for a while, of course, he still focused all his attention on protecting her. After all, this was the first time that Mei Xueyin had practiced this set of martial arts on her own. Furthermore, it was a newly forged meridian route. If anything were to happen, then Jun Moxie wouldn't even be able to find a place to cry. In just the time it took to burn a stick of incense, a small whirlwind of spiritual qi suddenly appeared above Mei Xueyin's head. It attracted the purest spiritual qi from the Hongjun Pagoda and gathered it towards her small body. Jun Moxie was speechless. "You're indeed a 4th-level venerable. So fast looking at you. Why do I feel so inferior?" After a long time, Mei Xueyin's breathing gradually became heavy and rapid. Her skin also began to emit a delicate pink color. Jun Moxie didn't dare to blink his eyes. This was a crucial period. As long as she successfully broke through this stage of foundation building, then she would truly enter the first level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. It would be much smoother in the future. If she couldn't break through the first time, then the next time she tried to break through, the difficulty will be doubled. The current situation would undoubtedly be very painful, but Mei Shuyan tried her best to endure it. She knew that the person she loved the most was watching her, so her heart was very calm, very blissful. She was only trying her best to break through. Emos, yeah, I won't let you down. I definitely won't. Mei Shuyan mustered up all of her energy and tried her best to break through, again and again. Finally, with a series of cracking sounds of bones breaking, every single pore on Mei Shuyan's petite body oozed out a black liquid, and at this moment, her cultivation had also successfully leapt up by 2 levels. Chapter 757. Mei Shuyan's body trembled. She opened her eyes in disbelief and looked at herself. Breakthrough? So easy? Shuyan, you're really too awesome. You're a genius. Jun Moxie was full of praises. At the same time, he quickly circulated the power of water. The spiritual energy in the sky instantly turned into water droplets and fell into the big basin he had prepared. He actually used spiritual energy to transform into water to bathe. This kind of extravagance made Mei Shuyan's heart ache. If she drank these water droplets, who knew how much her origin energy would increase without any explanation? Jun Moxie pressed her small body into the big basin and personally helped her bathe. Mei Shuyan was instantly extremely embarrassed and struggled with all her might, wanting to bathe herself. However, she was mercilessly rejected by Jun Moxie. Can you bathe yourself like this? This is something that's stuck to your body. It's not something that can be shaken off. Behave yourself. Otherwise, I'm going to start acting like a hooligan. Mei Shuyan felt a wave of helplessness in her heart. Isn't this considered acting like a hooligan? However, she also understood that what Jun Moxie said was the truth. It seemed like she really couldn't wash herself clean with her current strength, unless she waited for these stains to dry and fall off naturally. However, as someone who loved cleanliness, she wouldn't allow that. Speaking of which, if Jun Daxiao didn't take the initiative to help, she might have to beg him for help. That would be even more embarrassing. Therefore, although she was very embarrassed by Jun Moxie's domineering ways, she could only let him do as he pleased. After all, there was a hint of consideration in his domineering ways. She comforted herself in her heart. Luckily, I'm not in human form. Otherwise, I would really be embarrassed to death. For the first time, she was actually glad that she wasn't in human form. Jun Moxie energetically cleaned every part of her body, afraid that Mei Shuyan would be embarrassed and ignore him. He pretended to be as serious as he could be, but in his heart, he was fantasizing about himself bathing the human form of Mei Shuyan. When he thought about it this way, some of his little movements naturally became less well-behaved, and a certain part of his body unknowingly rose up into the clouds. After a long time, he finally finished bathing. Jun Moxie was panting heavily, and Mei Shuyan was also panting heavily. Both of them were a little tired. However, Mei Shuyan was tired, while Jun Moxie, this guy had fantasized so much that he couldn't control himself to be able to fantasize himself to the point of desire. Jun Daxiao was indeed a strong person. However, when Jun Moxie used spiritual energy to transform into water to clean Mei Shuyan's body, it was not a waste on purpose. After all, Mei Shuyan had just reconstructed her meridians, and it was also her first time cultivating the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. Her meridians were still very fragile, and it was far from comparable to the body of a top-notch Xian beast. Using such pure, natural spiritual energy to wash would allow the purest spiritual energy to slowly seep into her body through the skin. Moreover, as Mei Shuyan naturally absorbed it, it would form a natural protective layer on the surface of her skin. With this protective layer, it was as if Mei Shuyan had blended into the spiritual energy of the Hongjun Pagoda. Her absorption of spiritual energy would be even smoother, and it would be twice the result with half the effort. After finishing the cleaning, Jun Moxie immediately activated the power of fire, causing the surrounding air to become hot. Almost in an instant, Mei Shuyan's body was roasted clean and crisp Originally, Jun Dashao's intention was to use his hand as an iron to clean her fur. However, he had really gone too far. If he touched her so intimately again, he might explode, and that would be rather ugly. That was why he decided to give up on the easy part and take the difficult part and deal with it in a roundabout way. Having the power of fire was indeed convenient, and the cleaning was completed in an instant. Just as he finished, Jun Dashao suddenly slapped his head and said regretfully, "How could I be so stupid? Even if I don't do it myself, it would be nice to see you shake your butt and shake the water droplets." Shake my butt and shake the water droplets? Mei Xuan was finally angered to the point of anger, and she bit down hard on his shoulder. However, just as she touched the flesh, she suddenly could not bear to do it. "My teeth are very sharp now. What if I break it? What should I do? His flesh hurts, my heart hurts." Thus, she tentatively took a light bite. However, Jun Moxie pretended to bare his teeth and then burst into laughter. The two of them fooled around for a while, and Jun Moxie stood up. "Shui Yin, you stay here and cultivate properly. I have to go out and do something later." "Sai, your progress seems to be too slow. You're only at the second level now. Will you be able to cultivate back in this lifetime?" Mei Xuyan was so angry that she glared at him. How could he say that it was slow? What was considered fast? You've only cultivated for less than an hour, and you've already risen from no level to the second level. This speed is practically flying. Jun Moxie chuckled and said, "Don't be unconvinced. Look at your husband. I am a living example. We've only cultivated for less than a year. And, to be more precise, it's only been 10 months. From the third level of Xian Qi to Silver Xian, to Gold Xian, to surpass Yu Xian, to surpass Earth Xian, to battle Tian Xian, to defeat Xin Xian, and to become a supreme. Now, I'm a real second-level venerable." You think it's amazing to reach the second level after cultivating for a while? Let me tell you, you haven't even touched the edge of this cultivation technique. The real benefits are yet to come. Besides, you're cultivating here now, and there's nothing else to do. Furthermore, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth is so rich that you can take whatever you want. The conditions are even better than what I had in the beginning. I believe that it's not impossible for you to rush to the peak of the fourth level venerable within a year. You might even break through to the saint level. Mei Xuyan's eyes lit up when she heard this. She had already sensed the wonders of this cultivation technique. It was simply too outstanding. But after hearing Jun Moxie's words, she suddenly felt that her speed of improvement was still a little too slow. She also knew that what Jun Moxie said was the truth, because she had witnessed Jun Moxie's growth in strength with her own eyes. From the first time they met, Jun Moxie was only at the peak of Yuxian. But now he's a real second-level venerable. How many levels did he cross in between? And this, at the very most, it was only half a year's time, and he had experienced so many things that he had to deal with personally in between. Jun Moxie's words had greatly boosted her confidence in regaining her strength. It was the same cultivation technique, and her current cultivation environment seemed to be even better than Jun Moxie's previous cultivation conditions. So, if Jun Moxie could do it, why couldn't she? Mei Xuyan was instantly filled with confidence. Not only did she want to regain her strength, she also wanted to reach a higher realm. Previously, she had relied on the medicinal power of the Saint King elixir to defeat those saints. Next time, she wanted to win with her own strength. But Jun Moxie's next words revealed his true intentions. "Sai, you have to get well soon, so that we can consummate our marriage soon. I've waited too long for this day. Even if I can wait, little M.O., Xie can't wait any longer. You don't know, just now Mei Xuyan was instantly exasperated. She glared at him angrily and waved her little claws, signaling him to get lost. "Don't disturb my good mood. I don't care if you can't wait any longer." Jun Moxie laughed heartily and said, "Just focus on your cultivation. I'll go and find those 6 saints right now. Damn it, they dare to hurt my dear little Shui Yin. They must be tired of living. If I don't make them pay the price, this matter won't end." Mei Xuyan was instantly shocked and pulled him back, her eyes revealing an inexplicable worry. Be good, little Shwe, don't worry. I know I can't beat them now. June Moxie chuckled and comforted her. But who said I want to fight them? Your husband is not a reckless person. Mei Shuiyan's eyes were filled with doubt. How can I take revenge if I don't fight? Can I still hope to scold them to death with words? I'm going to smash them to death with gold. If that doesn't work, I'll use tree roots to tie them to death. If it doesn't work, I'll drown them with water. If it still doesn't work, I'll burn them to death with fire. If it still doesn't work, I'll bury them alive. Thinking of June Moxie's miraculous abilities, Mei Shuiyan instantly relaxed and let go of his hand reluctantly. June Mo Xie chuckled mischievously. Suddenly, without any warning, he groped her small buttocks, rubbed them, and smacked them. Then he laughed lewdly and said, "It feels really good, ah." With that said, his figure flickered, and he disappeared without a trace. Mei Shuiyan was so angry that she jumped up. When she wanted to scratch him, he was already gone. She stomped her little feet angrily for a long time. After a long time, she looked quietly at the direction where June Moxie disappeared and said quietly, "Thank you, Mo Xie. In the future, I won't let my imagination run wild anymore." Then she returned to the place where June Moxie put her down. She closed her eyes and focused on cultivating. She firmly believed that the place that June Moxie had provided for her to cultivate was the best. So she had set her sights on this place. It must be said that her confidence in June Moxie was not wrong at all. This place not only had the heaven and earth spiritual chi of the Hongjun Pagoda, but also the Tree of Life. There was even a heaven and earth spiritual chi under her. Gradually, a whirlpool of spiritual energy slowly formed around her body. Looking around the world, it was hard to find a better place to cultivate. June Moxie walked out of the Hongjun Pagoda in a relaxed manner. He had wanted to immediately take revenge and kill them, but he was worried that Mei Shuiyan would be disappointed and sad if she didn't see him when she woke up. So he chose to accompany Mei Shuiyan when she woke up first. Then, he explained everything in detail and completely dispelled the knot in Mei Shuiyan's heart. Only then did he leave with a peace of mind. After a round of fooling around, he even used his own experience to boost Mei Shuiyan's confidence. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. By the time he came out, he was already mentally exhausted. This was equivalent to a battle between himself and himself. For the sake of Mei Shuiyan, he had to fight, and he had to win against himself. How could the feeling of facing an outstanding beauty be the same as facing a small marten the size of 2 palms? Even though he clearly knew that the great beauty was the incarnation of this little marten, but when he actually faced her, he would still feel uncomfortable in his heart no matter what. And what June Moxie was most afraid of was the possibility of such an uncomfortable feeling in his heart. How sensitive was Mei Shuiyan? As long as June Moxie couldn't control himself, she would immediately find out. Then, even if she recovered in the future, there would still be a knot in her heart. A knot that would be hard to get rid of. Unfortunately, I caught a cold. I drank too much coffee last night. I didn't sleep until late at night. I was so sleepy, but I couldn't fall asleep. Finally, I fell asleep, but I had a nightmare. I dreamt that I fell off a cliff, and a big snake came out and coiled around me. I screamed and screamed. I screamed and screamed, and then I woke up in fright. When I woke up, I heard banging sounds on the window. I didn't know if the guy opposite my house was scared or annoyed by my screams, but he used a fishing rod to tie a pillow towel to his pillow. He was a few meters away from my window. That scene was really scary. It was the middle of the night, and it was like a hanged ghost was banging on my window. Bang, bang, bang. I thought that it was wrong for me to have a nightmare, and I might scare him, so I didn't make a sound. But when I didn't make a sound, the other side became even more energetic. Bang, 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 bang. I heard a man laughing and a woman laughing. The glass of the apartment I rented was already cracked. Bang, 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 it shattered. I slept facing the window. This time, all of them almost hit my head. Cold sweat poured down my body, and I quickly jumped out of bed naked. Then, the cold wind of the 12th lunar month suddenly blew in, And the coolness, don't even mention it. Too much bullying. Suddenly, I got angry. I put on my clothes and shoes, walked to the opposite door, and kicked it a few times. That guy came to open the door while cursing, and I kicked him in the stomach. Then I grabbed his neck, pressed him to the ground, and beat him. That guy couldn't take it, and after a few punches, his face was swollen like a pig's head, and he cried. F***CK. Since he smashed my window, I thought he was strong, but he was already in his 40s, and he still had the nerve to cry so loudly. His wife's scream was earth-shattering. The whole building was startled, and 7 or 8 old men and old women came to stop the fight. Then, nothing happened. I returned home, and there was no heating in the big hole, so I didn't sleep anymore. But when I opened the door, I saw that guy covering his nose and wanted to go downstairs. I asked angrily, "Where are you going? Are you going to run away if you don't fix the broken window?" That guy was more than one, 8 meters tall, and he was as strong as Bear Mountain. He pulled a long face and said, "I'll go to the hospital first, and then I'll fix it when I come back, okay?" At midnight, the window was fixed, and I turned on the air conditioner to sleep. Finally, I slept for a while. When I got up, I was hungry, and I found out that I really had a cold. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.